Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, where I've got a hair in my mouth. Colin is here. He says he am rural America. Damn straight, Colin. Oh, man. So I'm late today, and I'm not sorry. It was necessary this time. This time, it was not just simple procrastination. It was just a little bit of procrastination. But I've told you guys about how we have these dogs that we're dog sitting. We have our dog, Pete, and then we had a couple little yappy dogs. One of them went home yesterday. The other one, Chester, is going home today. And last night we were trying to get Eastwood ready for bed, and it was past his bedtime. He was starting to melt down a little bit about everything. And he said, "Daddy, I want to go walk Chester with you." And we were like, "No, sorry, bud. It's too late. We can't. You've already taken a shower. You're already ready for bed. Can't do that." So I said, like tomorrow morning we'll take Chester for a walk. He says, "Is that okay?" And he says, "Yeah." And it just like diffused it. And I didn't think a ton about it. I was like, kind of keep it in the back of my mind as something that I'll see about doing. But there's often those things that you make the promise to him, and tomorrow rolls around and he was busy with something else and has no interest in it. So I got back to the house this morning from walking Pete, our dog, and he was asleep when I left. And when I got back, Eastwood met me at the door, tears in his eyes, and he said, "Daddy, I want to walk Chester with you." And I don't know exactly what happened beforehand, but I'm guessing that Amy probably told him that he remembered and he wanted to do it, and Amy was probably like, "Yeah, Daddy's probably got to do a show and he's not going to be able to." So all it took was one look in his eyes as he's looking up at me with the tears starting to well up on the bottom of his eyes, and I was like, "Yeah, no, there's this. Y'all can wait. I got to go walk him." And then it ended up not being that long of a walk, really, because it was really hot outside, and he started wilting immediately. We got past the first house, and he was like, "Daddy, I need some water." I was like, "All right, well, you're going to have to tough it out, kid." Anyways, so that's why I'm late. And also because I promised you guys I wanted to do something on Project 2025, and I started digging into it, and I actually discovered some other stuff that I hadn't seen that informed my perspective on it even more. So I was preparing for that. I've got a couple of clips for us to watch. I got a couple of things to dig into with that. We're also going to touch on we're actually going to go into depth on a phenomenon that's happened on Twitter this week. If you're not on Twitter, you have no idea about this. If you are on Twitter, the guy who's road tripping for a trad wife. We're going to talk about that whole thing. We're going to talk about the thread that kicked it off, and then we're going to talk about his thread and everything that's been going on with him, and then some other adjacent thoughts to it. So then we're also going to talk about, what did I put in here? I said Project 2025 goes mainstream. I can't see the rest of the title. Rural America, so that's that. I got an interesting tweet from What If Alt Hist that I bookmarked a while ago. I want to get it out of the log. So we'll touch on that, talking about wokeness. And wokeness is a psyop, and a psyop for something you may not expect. And then lastly, we're going to talk. We're going to do it. We're actually going to do it. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't plan on providing commentary on this, but it's become necessary. The Tuah girl. We're going to touch on that, and it doesn't hurt that putting that in the title is great for the algorithm. So yeah, Project 2025 goes mainstream. Wokeness, rural America, and the Tuah girl. We have got a full show today. I'll be very surprised if I can keep this under 2 hours, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to tease something for you guys. We have got something in the works that is probably the best idea that we've had yet. It's one of those ideas that as soon as we started talking about it, it was like, oh, this has to happen. And we started talking to some other people about it. They were like, this has to happen. So you'll find out more about it as we go along. But let's just say that we may create a new industry that is a reimagination of some old industries. And we're going to be at the cutting edge of it. It has to do with art and content, and we'll just leave it at that for now. I think you guys are gonna love it. So that's also been something that, like, as soon as I finished the show up yesterday, I called Cooper. We started talking, and we spent hours talking about this last night. We were talking about it again this morning. It is our new obsession, our thing du jour that we're obsessed with, and we're gonna make it happen. So anyways, do me a favor, hit like on the video here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, watching there, then do me a favor and retweet the tweet that this is associated with. Get it in front of some more people, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter if you aren't already. All that sort of stuff. And we've got the hype man in the house. He was out last week, but he's back. He's back, fresh off of I don't know how much of your personal business I want to give away, but you got some good news this week. I'll put it that way, which is good to hear. So hype man's here. Join the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. You'll definitely want to be a part of that, especially with this new project that we're beginning to conceive. The King Pill Discord is going to play a big role in it. So if you aren't in there already, Jordan Gibb, there's another one. Kate J, we got Discord folks in the house. Colin, yeah, you guys tell them. Go join the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com. And yeah, we are winning. We will win. All will be well. Indeed, Taylor. All right. So first of all, of course, we got to get the one-off content. We got to do the wholesome stuff. We got to do the funny stuff. I've got some of those for you today. We're gonna kick things off with a little something wholesome. This is for the limbic system. This is to get you guys to touch your souls, kind of break you down, open you up, soften you, remind you that there are good things in the world. There are good people, no matter how much it may seem like there aren't. We just moved into a house, and my 98-year-old neighbor just dropped off a cake to welcome us to the neighborhood. He's lived here for 52 years and says he hopes we love it as much as he has. How frickin' wholesome is that? That is America. Americana is still strong. You just have to find it. And if you can't find it, you have to be it. I do think that there's kind of a, I don't know, like a macabre sort of irony about it, that the first instinct when this thing happens is film the guy walking away and post it on TikTok with me crying. White girls are undefeated at being white girls. We were talking about art, the Andrew Clavin or the Spencer Clavin thing yesterday, about recognizing something for what it is. What did she want to accomplish? What was her goal in creating that little piece of content? It was to go viral, and to go viral with something that's very wholesome and makes everyone go, "Aw." Did she accomplish that? Absolutely. Was it cynical? Maybe. I don't know. But I definitely think it was phenomenal, and I'm glad she did it, because I'm glad that my life was blessed with that, and I was able to bless your guys with it. Colin will remain hard. Yes, you must all remain hard. Full mast. I love white women. Indeed. I married one of them. Okay, here's another one. This is some more just good old wholesome country humor.
So I made a list of words that I think would make cute baby names if they weren't already words that mean something else. And they're a little redneck. First on my list, I have cigarette, except I would add an A on the end, so it would be cigaretta. That sounds like a Disney princess. It's just so elegant. Cigaretta. She's won the beauty pageant at the county fair 4 years in a row. Next up, I've seen a few people say this one, but I had to add it to my list. Felony. I know it's bad, but if you take away the meaning of it, that is such a pretty name. Felony. It's like Melanie. Felony. Or for a boy, you drop the Y and it's just felon. Next on the list is rifle. And I know some of y'all are probably like, I don't know about that one. Okay, well, picture a little red-headed boy riding a bicycle up and down your street, probably delivering newspapers. That's rifle. You see it now? This next one sounds a little exotic. Venison. Venison. I like it. She's probably moved here from out of town, real shy, real quiet, knows how to read a book probably. Next, I got barn. That's right, barn. Could be short for Barney, but it's not. Barn's the type of kid you want on your Little League football team. He's just tough as nails. Barn. Y'all let me know if you got any other good names.
More good art. This is very, very well done. There's, I could like teach an entire class on art analysis, digging into everything that he's doing with that. And you know, you might ask, is this natural? Is he going into character to do something like this? And again, I say it doesn't matter. Whether he's going into character or doing it authentically, if he's going into character, he's doing it very, very well and naturally, and he's really capturing the spirit of what he's conveying. I did see some people that were, the goal here isn't to get into flame wars with people, really. So I didn't highlight anything in particular, but I did see some people who were taking this cynically and like implying that this is, you've got the like black culture that has their weird names and weird spellings and stuff they do, which interestingly has this the overlap with like the bougie white moms on Instagram who have the most unique spelling of Jacqueline or whatever that you've ever heard. But there was people who took issue with this guy portraying rural Americans as like dumb inbred hicks or something like that. And what's interesting to me with that is that complaint implicitly lends credence to the actual idea that rural American redneck culture is dumb and inbred, and it's accepting that association. It's saying, yes, you have properly associated this cultural milieu with these values, and we just don't want you to do that. So you're actually accepting, you're putting yourself into a dialectic with them. You're accepting the terms of the debate and then just taking the opposite position in the debate. Whereas there's a implicit wisdom and charm that comes with that entire American culture. There's something that's distinctly American. There are whole cults in Asia and Mongolia and Africa of people who have in Japan. I've seen all of these in the last several months who have gone full like American hickseed, with the regalia and the bluegrass music and the dancing, the square dancing and speaking in a drawl and everything. Like they're obsessed with it. So that's very clearly a thing. It's like a thing that people can see and differentiate from other things. There's clear like definition to this thing that is the rural American redneck culture. Jim Goad made a really interesting observation that post-Civil War, war between the states, war of American aggression, war of northern aggression, the little Freudian slip, whatever you want to call it. He said that all of the negative stereotypes that were associated with the slaves were just transplanted wholly onto poor rural American whites. And they're treated as in the exact same way, like barefoot, dirt floors, stupid, incompetent, disease-ridden, retarded, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All those things are all just transplanted directly onto poor American whites. And ultimately now the battle that exists in American politics, and really in a lot of ways Western politics at large, is an intra-white battle. It's urban whites versus rural whites, and the stereotypes and values that are associated with each of them being pitted against one another. And when you look at it this way, you can almost view all of these major wars of the past couple hundred years on a continuum. They're revisiting the same subject matter from different angles and different times among different peoples, but it's still the same urban versus rural conflict. So if you see something like this and you don't immediately own it as wholesome and charming, and yeah, that's my people. These are our people. This is what we stand for. We represent these people. We want to give these people a place to have as their own. That's home for them. From the house itself out to the whole community. This is America, and we're going to build so that these people can get whatever they want. Taking the posture of, no, you shouldn't stereotype and characterize them that way, because no, actually, rural people are actually very upstanding, and some of them go to college, and you're just conceding the debate. You're losing the war from the outset. It's wholesome, it's charming, it's American. Okay, another funny one. Based Fat Chad, Kyle from the Two Tongues podcast, he quote tweeted this yesterday. So it says, "Jam bands aren't my thing." Cooper, you ought to appreciate this if you haven't seen it yet.
If jam bands are your thing, good for you. Bless your heart on that stuff. I do not hear a jam. I never hear a jam. I hear 5 stepdads who do not know how to end a song. That's what I hear. I don't care what name of the band you tell me it is. It's one band that names them all. It's called Noodly Loo and the Turd Herders. And it's 5 dads in cargo shorts, and one guy wants to end it. You know, one guy in the band.
This is Gen X humor. This is directly at the Gen X mind, the Gen X values, the culture they grew up in. This is Gen X humor.
Look at me, dude. Turn it down, Todd. I gotta get the fuck out of here. There's no end to this joke. It just goes on. In being faithful to that genre of music, the joke just goes on until everybody's like, we do have to get out of here. That really, there's no shit on that one.
I think that one stands for itself. All right. Okay, yeah, another one. We got a Buc-ee's theme song. AI music. Have you guys seen this? Have you seen the AI music that's being produced, like the AI making country songs? This guy says, I'm not a big AI fan, but damn it, this Buc-ee's theme song hits. And if you are not a Buc-ee's American, first of all, shame on you. You need to become a Buc-ee's American. I'd never heard of Buc-ee's until I moved to the South, and it is as the people in the West say, it's a whole vibe. This is the Buc-ee's song. I think this needs to be the new national anthem. This is the American national anthem now. I've deemed it so.
I'm running low on fuel, and you know what that means. I gotta grab my keys and drive down to Buc-ee's, and you already know I'm gonna need a buggy, 'cause baby, I'm about to give 'em all my money. Ooh, these toilets so dang clean, they make me wanna get some brisket and a sweet iced tea. I'm feeling perky off this jerky, oh, I'm feeling green, yeah, I might just have to work here, do you know what I need? It's a southern thing, ain't no place for yuppies, so bring your buddies and all your money. That Beaver's king of the road trip country, yeah, we get lucky when we see Buc-ee's. Whatever you need here, it's not very far, 'cause they got stuff for your home, it's stuff for your car. And if you're a little hungry, baby, you're the star. They got brisket, jerky, fudge, and it goes on and on.
Man, I could just keep listening to that. I almost wanted to just play it again. So Buc-ee's, someone in the chat said, what is Buc-ee's? And this is Buc-ee's. It is a national, what's the term I'm thinking of here? Like a landmark. You have like the Statue of Liberty and Mount Rushmore, and every Buc-ee's is a combination of, these are all from inside the store. You can kind of see it. It's a like a truck stop that has this fantastic branding. it has its own fudge, its own jerky, its own, and it's a kind of like a truck stop meets IKEA meets I don't know, like what do you call it? What fucking hell? The Bass Pro Shop. So it's like Bass Pro Shop and the Flying J and IKEA, because it's also, they've got clothes, they've got like tchotchkes for your house, little like white lady plaques, and they've got like outdoor equipment and gear. It's true. That's right. It's not a truck stop. There are no trucks allowed there. So you can't actually, it's like a truck stop, except just for passenger vehicles. There's a ton of them, and they're absolutely massive. They're the biggest like convenience store in the world, I think. There's one of them that's like, I don't know how many acres large. Bass Pro Shop meets Cracker Barrel inside a truck stop. Yeah. And the thing about it is it's always immaculately clean. Every Buc-ee's I've ever been to is spotless at all times. They've got tons and tons of staff all over the place. They pay everyone really well. The bathrooms are gigantic. They're, like, I don't know, 100 stalls or something. And every single stall is like its own little room that is always completely clean. They've got people that are full-time staff just cleaning the bathrooms. It is the best truck stop experience that you'll ever get. And it's something that 2-Bit Podcast, Jason, has mentioned before, that like people talk about Buc-ee's nationalism. And he said, if you want to see like a civilizational mindset at work, it's Buc-ee's. Like, you're not going to get someone like getting into a fight in the parking lot or something at a Buc-ee's. You just don't behave that way at Buc-ee's. If you did that at Buc-ee's, people were like, get the fuck out of here. Like, get that off the property. You wouldn't need the staff to come out and do it. The people themselves would be like get out of here with that. Massive line of gas pumps. So there's something really, I don't know, again, wholesome and charming about having this thing that's like an icon of American commercialism, yet it's done in a very pro-civilizational manner. Imagine a city run by Buc-ee's. For my Buc-ee's lovers, Buc-ee's appreciators out there. Imagine an entire city that's run by Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's branding everywhere. All the employees are all the personality of the employees would probably be kind of like Chick-fil-A. So you get that like super regimentally well drilled, really polite, friendly. Everyone seems to enjoy working there. It's a really cool place. Procrusty's the Clown says, I love Buc-ee's, but good Lord, do I miss the pretzel Reuben sandwich. Biggest mistake they ever made was taking that off the menu. He says, all the staff are so happy. I've talked to them quite a few times thinking, okay, they've got to be playing it up. Nope, they seem to really love it there. It is amazing. The Buc-ee's theme song. I want to listen to it again. No, I'm not going to. We got too much to get into today. Yeah, GMs at Buc-ee's make $130 a year. And part of that is because it's a huge operation. You're managing a ton of people. A GM is probably managing, I don't know, like 75 people, some huge amount of staff. Majorian says Maverick and Love's are my favorite gas station. So like, imagine Love's, except it's, I don't know, 8 times the size. And it also has a guy in a Buc-ee's costume walking around and like taking pictures with the kids. And there's all the different Buc-ee's merch and outdoor equipment. And, some white woman can decorate an entire kitchen using all of their products, not with Buc-ee branding even necessarily, just all the other different plaques and tchotchkes and clothes and towels. And it's a beautiful, wonderful place. All right. What if Alt Hist? What if Alt Hist is a curious fellow? I find him entertaining, although the way he makes his videos drives me nuts because he does video essays, but periodically in the middle of a video essay, he just like has a wall of text that is just like typed out stream of consciousness, elaborating on ideas he's talking about, but saying stuff that he's not talking about. So if you don't read the wall of text, then you're going to miss part of the video. So you have to pause the video and read through the wall of text. I'm just like, there's almost a charm to it. It's like his autism is just like, I just got to jam on through, and here, I'm going to give you the wall of text, and it's up to you to go pause it and read the wall of text. There's kind of a charm to it, but it's also like, dude, I'm like, the way I listen to stuff on YouTube is often just, I play it and then stick my phone in my pocket and go around doing stuff. So I'm not sitting here looking at the screen. So it limits the amount of stuff I can actually consume. But I think he has a very interesting take on the world. A lot of people get irritated by him because they see him as like a shill for someone or whatever. And after listening to him for a while, I can tell that the term independent thinker gets thrown around a lot, but he very much is. He very much marches to the beat of his own drum and he's just synthesizing all these different ideas and coming to his conclusions about them. And he doesn't really give a shit if there's any sort of consensus or whatever. It's for those, for the Jungian cognitive function people, it is pure distilled introverted thinking. So he says, hot take. Wokeness is a psyop to unify white Americans. When I read pre-World War II histories, they don't treat America as a single country, but rather a series of different ethnic subgroups like the South, the West, the Midwest, or the Yankees. In the 19th century, the states were seen as independent countries in federation. Furthermore, white immigration to America was very recent and big. Italians or Jews weren't seen as white until very recently. When my dad was growing up, the Irish had only recently assimilated. America had spent centuries trying to get different kinds of whites to unify. It's why the motto on our currency is e pluribus unum, or out of many, one. Meanwhile, with wokeness, if you bring up you're from the South or your family is Italian, the reply is you still have white privilege. People shut down discussion of regional cultures and different groups of ethnic whites where the differences are still sizable today. Wokeness creates a shared white identity that barely existed before. It's almost like the elites did this on purpose, setting up along racial lines as a way of unifying both the blacks and whites for their own specific benefits. And then he said, I don't actually think this was done consciously, but I find it funny. I think it's a good point. I think he's correct that this wasn't necessarily something done consciously, which illustrates the fact that these sorts of things don't have to be done consciously to have the effect that they're trying to create. There's something about this just reminds me, somebody commented on an episode a couple weeks ago and he emailed me a bunch of stuff that I need to go through on something called social physics. It's like studying the physical geometry to human social movements and arrangements. There's like a science to it. You can look at human society as an organism or as a collection of organisms that move in sort of not predetermined, but foreordained patterns that repeat. And one of these that comes up is you have like the intolerance of the small minority. And that intolerance of the small minority that Nassim Taleb talks about ultimately creates a polarity between the intolerant minority and the other minorities that hate that minority and want to get rid of it. And then it's a battle to create a coalition where you ultimately get one against the many. So you have the many coalition that forms against the one, and then that one is itself trying to form a coalition around itself. So everything kind of could be reduced almost to the two most intolerant oppositional minorities, and then the coalitions that build out around them, because they are so intransigent, they're never going to be moved. To them, whatever the ground is that they're standing on, the territory that they're protecting, is a matter of life and death. And they absolutely will not budge against it. They will die on these ramparts. When human beings act that way, other human beings naturally reach a point where they're like, okay, this person isn't even worth fighting against. Let's just leave him alone. Let him do his thing in the corner because it's going to be too much work to fight against him. Or it goes the opposite direction where it's this intolerant minority cannot exist. It has become intolerable to tolerate them. So now we must set about their destruction. We must absolutely purge and eliminate them altogether. When that happens, then, it forms like these two opposing factions that now exist in a polarity with one another, where all of their actions become determined by each other. And then you begin iterating this through time, and the coalition builds and falls and rises and falls. And this is ultimately what forms empires leads to the conquest of territories, which form empires. And then ultimately the empire reaches a certain threshold beyond which it can't sustain itself any longer, and it begins fracturing, and it's going to fracture fractally along these same types of lines. And eventually there's going to be some intolerant minority that plays in this zero-sum game, where they absolutely must succeed within their goal no matter what. And them not succeeding is them failing. And everyone else is forced to form around them. Think about how many people follow kosher food laws, and then think about how many products in the store are advertised as kosher. Think about how much time it takes, how much economic energy is put into making things that are kosher and advertising and marketing them as kosher. Think of the little kosher label that gets put on everything. Think of the accumulated time and effort and energy of every single product that has that put on it. For one small, completely intransigent, intolerant minority. Josiah says, game theory is chemistry at a higher level of being, elements of the human mind and psychological types. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it can be studied in the same way. It can be studied and understood, and then you can begin to predict what's going to happen. This is really what René Girard is doing with mimetic theory. It's the chemistry of, what did he say, of organisms at a higher level of being, or the chemistry of the higher level operations. So, kind of like the thing with art, like whether their intent was to create white consciousness or not, the effect of what they're doing is successfully creating a white consciousness. So they're beginning to inflate the thing that they're trying to get rid of. The thing they're trying to destroy is being inflated by what they're doing. So then you can read this either way. It's really just kind of a matter of preference, whether you want to read this as being something done intentionally or something done unintentionally. The effect winds up being the same. This is an interesting segue into the Project 2025 conversation. So let me make sure I've got all the rural America stories are lined up here, and then Hawk to a Chick at the end. Okay, so now is a good time for Project 2025. So any of you who have been following us for, several months, you guys knew about Project 2025 before most of everyone else. We stumbled upon it several months ago, looking at, as we were looking at these different counter-elite factions that were forming, we were looking at the things that they were working on. I don't even remember who came across it first or when we stumbled upon it, or I can't remember if somebody mentioned it to me and said, hey, you should look into this. I don't remember even where it came from, but we started looking at it and we were like, well, this is a very interesting thing. This is hold on, let me, Project 2025. I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia for it. This is not your daddy's GOP. As you begin looking at the way they're going about this, it's very clearly a new evolution of conservative, Republican, right-wing, democratic politics in America. But at the same time, it's also not super new, but there's some new evolutions on it. So Project 2025 is a collection of conservative and right-wing policy proposals from the Heritage Foundation to reshape the United States federal government and consolidate executive power should the Republican nominee, presumably Donald Trump, win the 2024 presidential election. The project asserts that the entire executive branch is under the direct control of the president under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution and unitary executive theory. It proposes reclassifying tens of thousands of federal civil service workers as political appointees in order to replace them with loyalists more willing to enable the next Republican president's policies. So the majority of people who elected Trump, the most passionate Trump supporters, they saw him as throwing a grenade into the China shop. We are sick and tired of this elite class that is not responsive to us, is actively destroying the country, treating us like an economic zone that's here to be we're like tax cattle. They're just harvesting taxes from us and using it to undertake various different exploits around the world. And there's basically as many people as there are who recognize this, there are that many theories for which group is behind it and how far it's gone back and how long this has been underway. And this makes up the vast majority of the discourse on right-wing Twitter. So among those people who elected Trump, what they saw as the big downfall for Trump was he surrounded himself by people who were working against our agendas. They were working against the things that we want in favor of, in service to the regime to whom Trump was hostile. Trump was hostile to the regime. The regime was hostile to him. He was an outsider who got in and shouldn't have. And so the next plan was just blockade every single thing he tries to accomplish. He surrounded himself with snakes, and there's all sorts of reasons why. But the fact of the matter is, a bunch of stuff that he campaigned on that he seemed to genuinely want to do, that he really tried to do, were all blocked because he was dealing with Russiagate and all these other different things that were thrown in his lap. He was able to accomplish many good things, but many other good things were neutered or just eliminated completely because he was surrounded by snakes. So then ostensibly, if one was to support a second Trump term, it would be because you think there's a possibility that he could accomplish more that he wasn't able to accomplish before. And if you see him as, if you see Trump as just a complete and total sellout who's just you accept the left's framing of Trump and say, he's just a billionaire sellout who, just wants to deep throat the wall, not the wall he wanted to build, the other wall. If you see him in entirely cynical terms like that, then this conversation just is never going to be for you. You've already got your mind made up. You're going to see everything in the most pessimistic, cynical light possible. Fine, you do you. But for those who don't see things that way, who don't operate that way, having an organization dedicated to identifying that particular fundamental problem and then seeking to root out as much of it as possible and actually be prepared for a Trump administration to maximize the good that he can do, it'd be like, hey, cool. There's people who actually are able and willing, have the connections, the money, the influence to work in that direction. To me, any direction, any headway made in that direction is a good thing. Obviously, if we were to have just complete, no restrictions whatsoever, every aspect of Trump's agenda that he's ever put lips to is being implemented, that'd be awesome. There's far more good than there is bad. There's plenty of bad, but there's plenty of good, and the good is so fundamental and foundational. Now, I don't see Trump as the savior. I don't see him as, my expectations for him aren't so high. I'm not like, oh, we just elect Trump and that solves everything. He is the chosen one. Of course not. It would be, you're a moron if you think that way. You're a moron if you reject him or oppose him on that basis, that he's not the most utmost perfect thing. You're the sucker. Of course he's not. How do you have the evaluation of the system as it is and think that system is somehow, at this point in time, just going to produce the ultimate savior? Clearly that's not going to be the case. So entering the arena of evaluation and analysis with that as the bare minimum standard is just a fool's errand. You're essentially, it's like, what was the analogy I used before? You're hunting for unicorns using a tool that is designed to find everything except for unicorns. Oh, it's not giving me unicorns. It sucks. No, it's not designed to give you unicorns. The unicorn is going to be anomalous by definition. Justin Donadue says, similar to wanting a trad waifu who loves to talk about Hyperborea with you and settling for nothing less. Yeah, exact same psychology. And it's no wonder that many of those, there's a lot of overlap with both of those things. Josiah says, well, we are supposed to hope in princes, bro. Yeah. So starting from that premise, the idea that I see with Project 2025, the thing that's encouraging to me about it, and has been since I first saw it, was, okay, if I apply the standard discount, apply the standard Con Inc. discount of everything that sounds really good is going to ultimately get watered down, and we're not going to nearly get whatever they're trying to sell us. The starting point they have with Project 2025 is like, man, if this gets watered down by to 20% of this, it would still be the most radical right-wing platform that any president has ever adopted, at least in recent history. So they're starting the conversation at the extreme end of I don't know, paleo-conservative, true right-wing nationalist, explicitly Christian, promoting Christian values. They're starting from that point. And you can go back and listen to some of the other episodes where we go into more detail about the different planks of their stuff, and we're going to go into some of it here in a little bit. But this also isn't something new. It's a new iteration on an existing thing. The Mandate for Leadership, a series of books published by the Heritage Foundation, an American conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C., offering specific conservative policy recommendations designed to be implemented by the federal government. The books have traditionally been released to coincide with an incoming U.S. presidential administration. The first edition was released in 1981, following the election of Ronald Reagan to serve as policy guidance for the incoming Reagan administration. The latest edition was published in April of 2023. This is one of the planks of Project 2025. The Mandate for Leadership. It's been around forever, since Reagan. And they've graded each of the presidents on how much of it has been actually implemented. The 7th edition, Mandate for Leadership, Blueprint for Reform, was published in November 2016, shortly after the 2016 election of Donald Trump as president. It was longer than prior editions, published in 3 volumes, in part because much of the progress of the Foundation's public policy agenda had been lost during the presidency of Barack Obama. So throughout the 8 years of Obama, the policy of the federal government backslid so far away from the Heritage Foundation vision that it had to be much longer. In 2018, Heritage claimed the Trump administration had by then embraced 64%, or nearly 2/3 of 334 proposed policies in the Foundation's Mandate for Leadership. They also published one, Mandate 2020, Clear Vision for the Next Administration, published in July of 2020. So they're publishing one every single year. Now, going back, let's see here. The project seeks to infuse the government and society with Christian values. Proponents have framed the plan as a means to dismantle a supposed vast, unaccountable government bureaucracy. Supposed. Critics have characterized Project 2025 as an authoritarian Christian nationalist plan to transform the U.S. into an autocracy. The polarity is really forming here. Proponents and critics. Many legal experts have said it would undermine the rule of law, the separation of powers, the separation of church and state, and civil liberties, including the civil rights of women, persons of color, and the LGBTQ community. Sounds awesome. Project 2025 envisions widespread changes to the government, particularly economic and social policies, and the role of the federal government and its agencies. The plan proposes taking partisan control of the DOJ, the FBI, the Department of Commerce, the FCC, the FTC, the DHS, dismantling the DHS, and sharply reducing environmental and climate change regulations to favor fossil fuel production. In addition to trying to undo most everything implemented during the Biden administration, the blueprint seeks to institute tax cuts, though its writers disagree on the wisdom of protectionism. Project 2025 recommends abolishing the Department of Education, whose programs would be either transferred to other agencies or terminated. Funding for climate research would be cut, and the National Institutes of Health would be reformed according to conservative principles. The project seeks to cut funding from Medicare and Medicaid and urges the government to explicitly reject abortion as health care. The project states that life begins at conception and seeks to eliminate coverage of emergency contraception under the Affordable Care Act and enforce the Comstock Act to persecute those who send and receive contraceptives and abortion pills nationwide. It proposes criminalizing pornography, removing legal protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, and terminating DEI programs and affirmative action by having the DOJ prosecute anti-white racism. The project recommends the arrest, detention, and deportation of undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. by using the military to capture and place them in internment camps. The project proposes deploying the military for domestic law enforcement. It promotes capital punishment and the speedy finality of those sentences. Some conservatives and Republicans have criticized the plan for its stance on climate change and foreign trade. Other critics believe Project 2025 is rhetorical window dressing for what would be 4 years of personal vengeance at any cost. From their lips to God's ears. The project's authors acknowledge that most of the proposals would require the Republican Party to control both the House and the Senate. Some aspects of the plan have recently been ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, would face court challenges, while others are norm-breaking proposals that might survive court challenges. Although Project 2025 cannot, by law, promote a specific presidential candidate, keep that in mind, by law, they cannot promote a specific candidate, many contributors have close ties to Donald Trump and his 2024 campaign. The Heritage Foundation, a think tank closely aligned with Trump, coordinates the initiative with various conservative groups run by Trump allies. These are just like plain facts. We're going to see Trump's comment here in a minute, and it's very obvious that his comment is explicitly by his, to his own awareness. There's no way he doesn't know. He's lying. The Trump campaign initially said the project aligned well with his Agenda 47 proposals. So there's this Agenda 47 thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. And in April of 2024, Project 2025 senior advisor John McEntee, remember this guy here, we'll talk about him in a minute, stated that they and the Trump campaign planned to integrate a lot of our work by summer. However, the project's controversial proposals increasingly caused friction with the Trump campaign. On July 5, 2024, Trump publicly distanced himself from Project 2025. This came days after Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts suggested in an interview that there would be a second American Revolution, which was criticized by Democrats and others for containing what they viewed as a veiled threat of violence. The project has employed warlike rhetoric and apocalyptic language in describing a battle plan to regain control of the government. So, since 1981, they've published new editions of this Mandate for Leadership every year. They call it the Policy Bible. This is a standard operating procedure for Heritage. Every Republican candidate for president ever knows what this is. The Heritage Foundation is closely aligned with Trump and coordinates the initiative by a constellation of conservative groups run by Trump allies. Heritage President Kevin Roberts sees the organization's current role as institutionalizing Trumpism. He established Project 2025 on April 21, 2023 to provide the 2024 Republican presidential nominee with a personnel database and ideological framework. Personnel database is important. After civil servants refused to support Trump during his attempt to institute a Muslim travel ban, his effort to install a new attorney general to assist him in his attempts to overturn the 2020 election, and his call for the use of lethal force, saying, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts," during the George Floyd protests. Associate Project Director Spencer Kretchen argued that it was, quote, past time to lay the groundwork for a White House more friendly to the right. In April of 2023, the Heritage Foundation published the 920-page mandate written by hundreds of conservatives, most prominently former Trump administration officials. Nearly half of the project's collaborating organizations have received dark money contributions from a network of fundraising groups linked to Leonard Leo, a major conservative donor and key figure in guiding the selection of Trump's federal judicial nominees. So real quick, Leonard Leo, longtime vice president of the Federalist Society, and currently, along with Stephen Calabrese, is the co-chairman of the organization's board of directors. So the Federalist Society, you think Trump is familiar with the Federalist Society? Do you think Trump is familiar with Leonard Leo? He assisted Clarence Thomas in his Supreme Court confirmation hearings and led campaigns to support the nominations of John Roberts, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. So he is one of the big money names behind the entire thing. Do you think Trump has encountered him before? Do you think he knows who's behind it? Axios reported that while Heritage had briefed other 2024 Republican presidential primaries candidates on the project, it is, quote, undeniably a Trump-driven operation, pointing to the involvement of Trump's most fervent internal loyalty enforcer, Johnny McEntee, as a senior advisor to the project. Let's go look at Johnny McEntee. American political advisor and dating app CEO who served in the Trump administration. He's been a Trump loyalist during and after the Trump presidency. He began as a body man and personal aide to the president, but was dismissed by White House Chief of Staff John Kelly One of the containment officers dismissed him in March 2018 after failing a security clearance background check, which discovered he was under investigation by the Department of Homeland Security due to issues related to gambling. Does this sound like a cover story to get rid of a Trump loyalist? That's how it sounds to me. After Kelly was dismissed in December of 2018, Donald Trump rehired McEntee and named him director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office in February of 2020. After leaving the White House, McEntee founded The Right Stuff, a dating app for conservatives, which he leads as CEO. Let's look at The Right Stuff, a dating app for American conservatives founded by John McEntee, Daniel Huff, and Isaac Stultzer, and funded by Peter Thiel. McEntee was raised in a Roman Catholic family. His father is a producer and manager who books celebrities for private and corporate functions, as well as for resorts, including the MGM Resort, Caesars Palace, and Venetian properties. College football player. Worked as a production assistant for Fox News, focusing on the channel's social media accounts. Successfully lobbied for a job on the Trump campaign, joining as a volunteer in July of that year, later being promoted to a full-time position as trip director. McEntee was responsible for executing the campaign's rallies while traveling with the candidate and coordinating the campaign's travel for all staff. Do you think Trump knows Johnny McEntee? After Donald Trump won the 2016 election, McEntee was asked to join his staff as an aide, serving as his body man. He accompanied Trump on all trips, most notably the president's trip to Saudi Arabia in May 2017, where man in red tie and hashtag Trump's daughter were the most trending hashtags in the country. McEntee's service in the White House ended when he was fired due to an unspecified security issue that was later revealed to be an issue related to gambling, then rehired. We already covered that. He returned to the White House, where he shared some of his former duties with Nick Luna, the director of Oval Office operations. Shortly after his return, McEntee was then promoted to director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office, the role overseeing the president's 4,000 appointments to the federal bureaucracy. McEntee reported directly to the president and continued to hold his role as Trump's body man concurrently. He was tasked with identifying and removing political appointees and career officials deemed insufficiently loyal to the administration, despite having no previous personnel or people management experience. His reappointment was controversial given the circumstances of his dismissal. On November 9, 2021, he was issued a subpoena to testify by the House January 6 committee. On 2 occasions in 2022, he appeared before the committee in a taped deposition before returning in person in January of 2023. He's developed a loyal following with the Republican Party base for his actions within the Trump administration. Right-wing media outlet Revolver News has described McEntee as one of the very few who truly believed in and was willing to fight for the agenda Trump ran on in 2016. Breitbart News has gone into detail about how McEntee fought back against the efforts of establishment Republicans and permanent bureaucrats to sabotage the Trump presidency. McEntee is often credited with purging the neocons from the senior ranks of the Pentagon and installing Christopher Miller as acting Secretary of Defense and Colonel Douglas Macgregor as senior advisor to the secretary. McEntee's subsequent attempt to engineer a military withdrawal from Afghanistan in order to fulfill Trump's campaign promise was thwarted by other officials, though McEntee was able to get the Pentagon to withdraw 700 troops from Somalia. McEntee also used his position to take on big tech companies. In 2020, he appointed Adam Kandub to lead the National Telecommunications and Information Administration at the Department of Commerce. He would go on to lead the effort to have the FCC use its rulemaking powers to stop social media censorship of conservatives. He also withdrew the nomination of FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly after he criticized President Trump's executive order on combating big tech censorship. He also sent a series of bullet points via text message to Pence's chief of staff to assert that Thomas Jefferson, quote, used his position as VP to win the 1801 election, which McEntee claimed, quote, proves that the VP has, at a minimum, a substantial discretion to address issues with the electoral process. In 2021, McEntee met with Peter Thiel to pitch him on several tech startup ideas, one of which was an idea for a conservative dating app called The Right Stuff. Thiel agreed to fund The Right Stuff and subsequently made a seed round investment of $1.5 million. The app launched on September 30, 2022. In May of 2023, it was announced that McEntee was joining the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 as a senior advisor. Described by the New York Times as one of Trump's most trusted aides, McEntee's association with Project 2025 serves as the main link between the Heritage Foundation and former President Trump. The New York Times has reported that his role includes working as, quote, part of a team searching for potential lawyers for Trump's next administration. ABC News correspondent Jonathan Call wrote in November 2023 that in the closing weeks of the Trump presidency, McEntee worked with Douglas Macgregor to draft a brief document ordering swift withdrawal of U.S. military forces from Afghanistan and Somalia. The president signed it, and it was forwarded to Kash Patel at the Pentagon without any review by the legal military and national security apparatus. nor it being recorded by Derek Lyons, the White House staff secretary responsible for filing and transmitting official presidential orders. After acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller and Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley sent to the White House to inquire about the order, it was rescinded. You can probably read between the lines on some of this stuff. Kash Patel is a very interesting one. Former senior aide to Devin Nunes. And these guys are very much in the... Is there a picture of McEntee? Let me find a picture of him real quick. He's a young guy, 34. These guys are very much in the Steve Bannon orbit. So here's McEntee. Gee, I wonder if Trump knows him. All right. So now, let me see. Was there something else in here that I wanted to... Oh, yeah, here. Let's share this screen here. Okay, we got 58 watching and 23 likes. Do me a favor and hit the like button, folks. CB says, McGregor is my nig. Yes. Incoming Catholic integralism confirmed. Oh, interesting. Leo is a Knight of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, a Catholic lay religious order. On October 2022, Leo was awarded the John Paul II New Evangelization Award by the Catholic Information Center in Washington, D.C., a Paulist organization affiliated with Opus Dei. Huh. Very interesting. This part here, this is, okay, the two officials, let me go back a little bit more. Okay, Axios reported that while Heritage had briefed others, okay, I read that part, two top Trump campaign officials later issued a statement seeking to distance the campaign from what unspecified outside groups were planning, although many of those plans reflected Trump's own words. The New York Times reported the statement noticeably stopped short of disavowing the groups and seemed merely intended to discourage them from speaking to the press. Nevertheless, the campaign said it was appreciative of suggestions from like-minded organizations. Project 2025 is not the only conservative program with a database of prospective recruits for a potential Republican administration, though these initiatives' leaders all have connections to Trump. In general, these initiatives seek to help Trump avoid the mistakes of his first term when he arrived at the White House unprepared. That's quite a euphemism. That could be, you could take that in a couple of different ways. By reclassifying tens of thousands of merit-based federal civil service workers as political appointees in order to replace them with Trump loyalists, some fear they would be willing to bend or break protocol, or in some cases, violate laws to achieve his goals. Imagine the head of the executive branch bending or breaking protocol. Can you fathom it? The two officials released a similar memo days later after Axios reported Trump intended to staff a new administration with, quote, full, proud MAGA warriors, anti-GOP establishment zealots, and eager and willing to test the boundaries of executive power to get Trump's way, which would include targeting and jailing critics in government and media. Based! Axios also reported on people being considered for senior positions in a second presidency, including Kash Patel, Steve Bannon, and Mike Davis, a former aide to Senator Chuck Grassley, who has promised a 3-week reign of terror should Trump name him acting attorney general. Patel had said on Bannon's podcast 2 days earlier, "We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out." In June of 2024, Bannon named specific current or former FBI and DOJ officials who would be hunted down for alleged crimes and treason, even if they fled the country. So the advisory board and leadership here. So we've got the Heritage Foundation. As of February 2024, the project had over 100 partner organizations. Project 2025 partners employ over 200 former Trump administration officials. The Washington Post reported on regular communication between Project 2025 and Trump campaign advisors. Russ Vought was named policy director of the Republican National Committee Platform Committee in May of 2024. Russ Vought was, it mentioned him up here further, but he was I think he was the director of OMB under Trump. Again, like, Trump doesn't know who Russ Vought is. Many contributors to Project 2025 are expected to have positions in a second Trump administration. We're going to get into some of this here in just a minute. So now let's go to the website here real quick, just to show you guys each of the Project 2025, the pillars. So there's policy, which is the policy agenda, the mandate for leadership, 900-something pages. I've definitely not read all of it, but I've gone through and I've read bits and pieces here and there. So Russ Vogt, Chris Miller. Let's see. Some other names you guys might recognize in here. Ben Carson. Peter Navarro. Okay, so that's the policy agenda. Personnel. They're creating the presidential personnel database. Want to be considered for positions in a presidential administration? Submit your resume today to be included in the personnel database. It's the effort of a massive coalition of conservative organizations that have come together to ensure a successful administration begins in January of 2025. With the right conservative policy recommendations and properly vetted and trained personnel to implement them, trained is important, we will take back our government. So it's being organized by the Heritage Foundation. Here is the massive coalition of associated organizations. I'm just going to scroll down through these. I'm not going to read all of them. American Conservative, America First Legal, Center for Renewing America, Claremont Institute, Coalition for Liberty, CPI. It's basically a who's who of conservative NGOs, Gun Owners Foundation, Heritage Foundation, Herzog Foundation, Hillsdale College, MacArthur Society, Honest Elections Project, Dr. James Dobson, James Madison Institute, Liberty University, Moms for Liberty, National Association of Scholars, National Center for Public Policy Research, National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, Pacific Research Institute, Black Leadership Network, Protect Our Kids, Recovery for America Now Foundation, Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, Tea Party Patriots, Texas Public Policy Foundation, Turning Point USA, Young America's Foundation. Which one's this? Oh, Teneo Network. Okay. So that is the personnel. Next is training. The Presidential Administration Academy, preparing political appointees to be ready on day one. The Presidential Administration Academy is a one-of-a-kind educational and skill-building program designed to prepare and equip future political appointees now to be ready on day one of the next conservative administration. This academy provides aspiring appointees with the insight, background knowledge, and expertise in governance to immediately begin rolling back destructive policy and advancing conservative ideas in the federal government. What you will learn. If you're a former political appointee or you're exploring appointed service for the first time, there's something for you to learn. The Presidential Administration Academy covers topics ranging from how to identify appointee positions for which you qualify, to navigating the necessary background and security clearance processes, to recognizing and addressing the dangers of the administrative state. Potential appointees will learn the intricacies of the federal budget process, how to work with the media, managing congressional and stakeholder relations, the federal procurement process, and dozens of other topics that provide the knowledge and skills you'll need to be an effective presidential appointee. Who should attend? If you're interested in serving the next conservative president, you've come to the right place. Presidential Administration Academy participants are professionals at all career levels from across the country and in our nation's capital who want to learn, engage, get credentialed, and be prepared to serve the next president and American people by advancing conservative policy at the federal level. Applicants ranging from new college grads to experienced professionals in all career fields are encouraged to apply. We also welcome those who have not previously served in an administration, as well as those who are former appointees. The program format. Currently, the Presidential Administration Academy is a fully online program where participants can take courses on demand. We've had at least one guy in the King Pill Discord, Josh Ham, who you see commenting in here regularly, who has actually been going through the program and telling us about it, and it's extremely rigorous. As the presidential election approaches, additional online courses will be added, and in-person training sessions will be available. Intense instruction tailored for high-level positions will be in person. The Presidential Administration Academy offers individual classes as well as full certificate programs. In order to receive a certificate of completion, all classes within the certificate program must be completed and each quiz must be passed. Majority of classes run 30 to 90 minutes. Since it's largely offered online and on demand, you can self-pace and cover the material at your convenience over time. On-site, in-person programs will be intensive learning and run 1 to 2 days. They've got a distinguished roster of former political appointees from 4 previous presidential administrations, as well as policy experts, practitioners, subject matter experts representing more than 100 partner organizations. The Presidential Administration Academy faculty is a veritable who's who of the conservative movement. So they've got all these different certificate programs, prepared to serve, introduces participants to federal appointed service by reviewing the processes, requirements, and preparations necessary to be a successful appointee candidate. They're basically they're creating a university that is designed to teach you how to work in the federal government. And not the federal government, the imagined idealist boomer conservative federal government, but the actual federal government that exists right now. Conservative Governance 101, don't tell Semiagog. It equips individuals with the institutional knowledge needed to navigate relationships, cut through the bureaucracy, and get to work on day one as a political appointee. The administrative state and the regulatory process, and conservative governance, advancing policy, designed to instruct future appointees on best practices for drafting and advancing policy. This program primes individuals to start implementing the president's agenda on day one. So that's the third pillar, and then the fourth pillar is the 180-day playbook. The time is short and conservatives need a plan. The project will create a playbook of actions to be taken in the first 180 days of the new administration to bring quick relief to Americans suffering from the left's devastating policies. It's a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency. Only through the implementation of specific action plans at each agency will the next conservative presidential administration be successful. Pillar 4 will provide the next president a roadmap for doing just that. So you can get all the details on it from Pillar 1, the mandate for leadership. So that's the background on what Project 2025 actually is and some of the people who are associated with it. So let's talk about some of the more recent commentary. This was really kicked off with Trump's post on Truth Social, July 5th, day after the 4th of July. Everyone's been waiting for him to weigh in on the Joe Biden thing, and he kind of really hasn't. Made a couple comments, but for the most part, hasn't really been weighing in. And he says, I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Okay, I just gave you guys all that background. So with all that background that I just gave you, now, reading Trump's post, it's very obvious he's lying. So then the question is, why is he lying? We'll get into that. First of all, this is Axios giving you their millennial post, telling you how to think about all these things. It mentions Kevin Roberts and his quote. I'm gonna play the clip of him with Steve Bannon here in just a minute. A plethora of former Trump administration officials have worked on and endorsed it. They identified John McEntee right away, senior advisor for the project. McEntee said in April that the Trump campaign and Project 2025 plan to, quote, integrate a lot of our work this summer, according to the liberal watchdog Media Matters. Project 2025 responded to his comments on X and says, as we've been saying for more than 2 years now, Project 2025 does not speak for any candidate or campaign. We are a coalition of more than 110 conservative groups advocating policy and personnel recommendations for the next conservative president. But it is ultimately up to that president, who we believe will be President Trump, to decide which recommendations to implement. Project 2025 this is Biden campaign spokesman says, Project 2025 is the extreme policy and personnel playbook for Trump's second term that should scare the hell out of the American people. So this is why Project 2025 is in the news now. I've been talking for months, like it's very interesting this hasn't come up. It's going to come up eventually. We've been saying it's going to happen. Pretty soon, the libs are all going to start ripping their hair out about it. And that's what's happening. That's the reason why now it's being talked about, which is the reason why Trump is responding to it. So what's Trump responding to? Trump is responding to them posting this thing and associating him with it and tying him to the whole Project 2025 thing. An initiative that's being undertaken like this is going to work much better if they're separate from one another. We have our thing we're doing, you have your thing you're doing, and the actual implementation happens behind closed doors. The goal isn't to hash this out in the media. Project 2025 staff and leadership routinely tout their connections to Trump's team and are the same people leading the RNC policy platform and Trump's debate prep campaign and inner circle, which is true. So you have this thing called Project 2025, and then you have Trump and his campaign. And then you have the people in the background. So we have nothing to do with Project 2025, even though, like, the we being referred to, which is the whole Trump orbit, is made up largely of people from Project 2025. And what's the premise of Project 2025? The premise is that the GOP has been filled with a bunch of snakes and backstabbers, and we're undertaking a massive initiative to eliminate as many of them as we can and replace them with Trump loyalists. Do you think that Trump dislikes the idea of an organization designed to staff his administration with loyalists? No, yes, he does like that idea, but also he doesn't want this to be like, oh, I'm beholden to Project 2025. That kills the Trump brand. Trump is the Trump brand. Trump is the one who makes the decisions. This is all marketing. So Trump is marketing. Those people, they're doing their thing. They're not dictating what I'm doing. I'm the one who makes all my decisions. I'm the executive. But his base and the staff who are surrounding him are full of the people who are deeply integrated into it. There also are influences around him who recognize Project 2025 is not a threat to the libs. It's a threat to them. So when we've talked about how Project 2025 is going to get watered down, it's going to get neutered in some way. We're not going to get both barrels broadside of Project 2025. This is the watering down process. It was inevitably they're on a collision course for conflict between the containment officers of the regime who are installed along with Trump to try to steer him back into the corral, and the actual more, I don't know, loyalists, true believers, radicals, the people who actually believe in his agenda. And Trump is going to be the Trump. We talked about the Biden family, and then there's Trump. It's not just the man himself, but it's the orbit of people around him. They have he's going to become the inflection point where these forces meet one another and they have it out. And the question is, to what extent is that going to actually bear out? So all the people who are blackpilling about Project 2025, oh, they should never have talked about this publicly. Oh, it's all over now. Oh, look, Trump is completely compromised. They're just advertising that they don't understand what's happening. If you understand the way the system works and the different forces that are at play, it should be very obvious this is the way it's going to go. If you were among Project 2025, you would want Trump to disavow you and separate himself from you. There's going to be legal battles ultimately that have to be hashed out with all of this. And the entire premise of all of this is that you have to figure out how to do all of this by the book. You have to dismantle the book by the book. And it's possible to do that, but it involves walking some very narrow lines. We're told Trump hated the credit Project 2025 got, and campaign aides found the coverage confusing. The campaign has its own detailed policy plans, Agenda 47. We're going to look at Agenda 47 here in just a minute. Axios scooped last week that the Biden campaign planned to use the CNN debate to launch a new offensive against the Heritage Foundation's plan to transform the U.S. government. They recognized their enemy. Musa pointed out on X Friday that Trump, now get this, Trump's main super PAC, MAGA Inc., is running ads promoting a website called Trump Project 2025. A source familiar with the website tells Axios the term Project 2025 was used to capture search traffic inspired by Democratic ads. You're seeing the way this is the battlefield. They're using the keywords that are running on the search engines, optimizing for the algorithms, and they're capitalizing on the Project 2025 energy to funnel people to their own agenda. So now you've got a left hand and a right hand both working together to funnel in virtually the same direction, as you'll see when we go through the Agenda 47 stuff. The site doesn't link to or promote Heritage Project and instead contrasts Trump and Biden policies. This is all very cynical, but this is how the game works. On one hand, the campaign is going to deny any awareness of or affiliation with it, but they're also going to use that affiliation in the background. I think that was all that was relevant here. Trump signed an executive order late in his previous administration creating a Schedule F job classification, which could apply to as many as 50,000 federal workers. So this effort was underway during his previous administration. Since the order was signed in October of 2020, the Trump administration didn't have time to fully implement it, and the Biden administration rescinded it before it could go into effect. So clearly there was, if the Biden administration is rescinding it, that means that there was teeth to it. The Biden administration finalized a rule earlier this year that strengthens existing protections for civil servants and to slow efforts to undermine them. Something like this could have been used if they were creative enough, or depending on, I haven't actually read the Schedule F thing, the thing that the executive order that he put out, but like the fact that they went and rescinded it completely rather than just weaponizing it in their own way, I think says something about it. They had to rescind it and introduce a new rule doing the opposite of it. So he's promised to re-implement it on day one of his administration. The Trump campaign has said it welcomes outsiders' efforts to collect and vet resumes for a potential second term, but the campaign itself never embraced Project 2025's 922-page policy handbook, which, again, has been around for 40-plus years. Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita, we're going to talk about this guy here a little bit in a minute, co-managers of the Trump campaign, have issued several statements distancing Trump from such outside efforts. A December statement said, despite our being crystal clear, some allies haven't gotten the hint, and the media, in their anti-Trump zeal, has been all too willing to continue using anonymous sourcing and speculation about a second Trump administration in an effort to prevent a second Trump administration. Now, this here, coming from the managers of his campaigns, this Chris LaCivita guy has a very sketchy background. And this, to me, reads as actual, this is like the battlefront here between Trump's containment officers appointed to him by the regime and the insurgents from the Heritage Foundation. Now, I don't know anything about Susie Wiles. I haven't had time to go read into her. Taylor says she's the brains behind the entire campaign, but I do have some stuff on Chris LaCivita. So let me see the different tabs I've got open here. Okay, so this one's funny here. Project 20, this is posted July 8th, so posted yesterday. Reddit lies. Project 2025 is mentioned once every 20 seconds on Reddit. Project 2025 has hit the libs. Several weeks ago, I would search for stuff and couldn't find any commentary on it now. It has hit the libs. It's so pervasive that Redditors are beginning to grow tired of the constant fear-mongering. Remember what is at stake. If Republicans get their way, Project 2025, our country will be turned into a Christo-fascist state with no rights. Organize and energize. Seriously, take this shit to a sub that's dedicated to politics. You're doing the same thing that Just Stop Oil people do when they block the road so people can't get to work. You are aggravating people, and you're having the opposite effect that you're looking for. Oh, interesting. Politico wrote a massive piece on Wiles a month or two ago. She's the one who tanked DeSantis' campaign before his campaign ever knew what hit them. Now, there is an interesting thing where I believe that a lot of the Heritage Foundation people likely wanted DeSantis. We heard the talk about how we need someone who can capture Trumpism but do it better, meaning do it more like professionally and less chaotically, and maybe be in their minds less beholden to the regime. And they saw DeSantis as that opportunity. DeSantis would have been the very like staid executive who you wouldn't have as many variables with it. So I think like one of the big criticisms that people are throwing out as they're talking about Project 2025 is they're saying, oh, Roberts was a DeSantoid and this is just an effort to undermine and corrupt what Trump is doing. And you guys just got to stop fucking gagging down black pills every day. It is conceivable. The data exists out there where you can fashion every single narrative that you want. Yes, you can fashion the narrative that every single organization of ostensibly right-wing people is somehow some sort of deep state op to fuck you over. You absolutely can create that and provide lots of evidence for it and choose to continue believing that over and over and over again. Or you could just extract your mind from the Borg and recognize how many fucking white pills there are out there. Especially if you recognize that the more you begin focusing on the white pills and trying to manifest them, the hippie chicks have it right. You will manifest the things that you focus on. So if you focus on the black pills, if you try to turn every single thing into a black pill, you will be successful. But it's not because it was a black pill, it's because you made it one. You brought it into existence. Euthanasia and Rip both jumped in and said, missed the notification. We've been going for over an hour. Yeah, I don't know what the point is of notifications on YouTube. It seems like they never work for anyone. I have notifications on for almost everyone I'm subscribed to. I never get notifications. So, I don't know. Whatever. Sorry, guys. CB says, please accept my CV for deportation project manager. Hell yeah. There are actually organizations that exist now that will accept a CV for something like that. And you could say, oh, this is all containment. They're just creating a list for the CIA to go hunt down. And yeah, you got to take that risk. You're not going to rebuild a civilization safely within your living room. At some point, you're actually going to have to take some risks. And it's going to require the collective willpower of people who feel the same as you actually taking the roles in these organizations and forcing them to be true to their own agendas rather than whatever the secret, mysterious, behind-the-scenes, nefarious agenda is. The regime survives on your demoralization. They're trying to create it. And when you are blackpilling relentlessly, you're doing their work for them for free. Yeah, we're already on a list. This is the thing, like, people are, oh, I gotta have my privacy. I gotta make sure they can't track me. They're not following me. Yeah, you don't actually want that. Someone has told you need to care about that. But there's a fraction of a percentage of people who actually say they care about that and actually go about doing something about it. Or you could just accept, like, I mean, they're talking about having technologies now where they can use fucking streetlights they can analyze the harmonic frequencies coming out of the house, and they can use large language models or something to identify your actual shape of your profile inside the house. There's people that have taken potato chips and they've shouted something at the potato chips, and then they've done some sort of fucking spectral analysis or whatever, and they can rejigger the vibrations that the chips were exposed to and actually play an audio clip of the thing that was yelled at the chips. Look up, like, it's like Mary Had a Little Lamb potato chips, and it was Stanford or something. You could relentlessly focus on all the different ways they can get you, and you're never going to run out of ways. Yes, there are people out there who are dedicated to coming up with all the different ways they can get you. But eventually, you just kind of have to just move on with your life. And just go do something. Be intelligent about it. Be smart. You can go out and you can go for a walk in the park, and the deep state isn't coming after you. Go pet a dog. Go sit on a park bench and look at trees. You gotta weed this stuff out of your brain. Same as anyone who calls Patriot Front feds. Yeah, that's a subject for probably tomorrow. I've got some stuff on that. I want to talk about the Patriot Front thing. Okay. So these are some interesting comments. So Amanda Milius, the daughter of John Milius, who's in the Bannon orbit, was worked at the State Department for Trump. She said, this is how Chris LaCivita felt about Trump during 2020. This is who is leading the charge against loyalist staff Project 2025. Some interesting likes for someone in such a position at the campaign. So this is Chris LaCivita's likes on January 6, 2021. Dan Crenshaw, stop this bullshit right now. Matt McCowiak, we are witnessing domestic terrorism. Nancy Mace, this is insane. Barbara Comstock, Twitter locked down real Donald Trump for 12 hours. Now the cabinet needs to lock him down for the next 14 days. Hashtag 25th Amendment now. Brendan Dilly says, have you met him or spent time with him? I have. He's a Marine and a good dude. He wasn't part of DJT's previous cabinet and clearly was reacting in real time to the false narrative being presented. This isn't a smoking gun. Trump loves Chris. Amanda says, love you and your work, but based on my own interactions, this is where we differ. Trump also loved a handful of terrible hires because of their military service, and it took years to unwind. Kelly, Mad Dog, Esper, I don't doubt his instinct in distancing due to the boogeyman the left has made of Project 2025, but every prior good guy I know is on Project 2025. Both sides do not want Trump to have a coherent transition resource, which is all it is, because they know they'll be able to stack the admin with establishment in the chaos like they did before, just calling what I'm seeing. And he says, appreciate the kind words, but I also know who's in charge of the transition team, and they've been vetting since 2021. Also, you don't recover from bankruptcy and become a billionaire again if you don't have the ability to adapt and learn from previous mistakes. She says, honestly, I hope you're right, and I absolutely believe in Trump. I've just seen this movie before. Johnny McEntee was the most impactful good hire besides, like, Miller, so it's all just very sus to not have both teams working together. No need for the discord. All my favorite people and coworkers have in some way contributed to Project 2025, so I'm going to have their back. Mostly Peaceful Farva says, La Savita is the epitome of the parasitic consultant class at the very center of the swamp. He's in it for himself, not DJT, as is evident by his self-dealing of contracts from the RNC and campaign to FP1 strategies, which he owns. I just saw the distancing as a way to take the wind out of the media's ability to try and cause the usual Trump panic. I saw it mirrored in the Project 2025 account post. Maybe he's also learned not to make his entire playbook public this time around. Trump knows heritage is thumbs up. So this is an interesting insight from someone who's personally knows a lot of these people. I don't think Amanda seems like an interesting person. I followed her for a while. I unfollowed her. But she's the one who brought Chris LaCivita more clearly onto my radar. And let's look him up. So, physiognomy is a bitch. Christopher Joseph LaCivita is an American political consultant and partner in FP1 Strategies, a national public affairs and campaign firm. He's currently a senior advisor to Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. He was a media advisor to the Swift boat veterans. If you're old enough to remember the Swift boat controversy, then yeah, that's we're dying off. We're middle aged now. An independent expenditure group created with a significant impact on the 2004 presidential election. Since 2004, he's been president of the firm Advancing Strategies LLC. He was formerly with Crestlink Strategy, a conservative lobbying and political consulting firm founded by former John McCain advisor Terry Nelson, a founding partner of FP1 as well. So we've got a McCain reference. Active in Republican politics following his Gulf War service, LaCivita did field work for George F. Allen in Central Virginia during his 1991 congressional campaign, then went with him to Capitol Hill serving as a legislative assistant on foreign and defense policy. He's an absolute DC insider. When Allen ran for governor of Virginia in 93, he organized in the Richmond area, South Side, and Central Virginia, then was appointed to serve as an assistant secretary of the administration. He left state service in 1995 to help run Allen's political action committee, assisting legislative races that year, wherein the GOP captured a tie in the state Senate. He was named executive director of the state Republican Party in 1996 after Allen's allies won control of the RPV. He ran the state party organization as Jim Gilmore succeeded Allen as governor in 1997, acting as overseer of internal squabbles, but going on later to capture control of both houses. In 2001, he was drafted in the final 2 months to shore up the losing campaign of Republican Attorney General Mark Earley for governor against Democrat Mark Warner. As Fred Barnes wrote, Earley wasted the summer and didn't find a message until September after party officials dispatched Chris LaCivita, the political director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, to run his campaign. The message, it turns out, is a hearty perennial for Republicans: taxes. So then he served as the political director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee under the chairmanship of Senator Bill Frist. They scored a net gain of 2 Senate seats for capturing control of the upper chamber. He was the direct supervisor of James Tobin, another former employee of the DCI group, who was sentenced to 10 months in federal prison in the 2002 New Hampshire phone jamming scandal for his activities during that campaign. He was on his witness list but never called. Then he was the president of Progress for America. Let's see, at one time worked for the Republican political consulting firm DCI Group, had close ties both to Progress for America and Swiftboat Veterans for Truth. He served as consultant and principal media advisor to the Swiftboat veterans, writing and producing the group's memorable and controversial commercials in association with Rick Reed. Now, senior strategist for Vern Buchanan, general consultant for Bob Corker's successful campaign for Senate in Tennessee. In 2007, he told reporters that the GOP could silence the press uproar over the sudden dismissal of 8 U.S. attorneys by promoting stories about the most extreme among anti-Bush activists. When are we going to make it about Code Pink and the rest of the liberal weirdos controlling the Democrat agenda, he asked. Now, let's see here. So, here now. So, in 2008 presidential campaign, LaCivita and Tony Feather launched a new 501c4 issues advocacy group, the American Issues Project, after a series of meetings with other Swiftboat donors. In August of 2008, AIP began airing ads in battleground states seeking to raise questions about Democratic Party presidential nominee Senator Barack Obama's ties to former student radical William Ayers. The ad may be viewed here. It's funny they call him former student radical William Ayers. These fucking people. The American Issues Project had a sole donor, Harold Simmons, an 87-year-old Dallas billionaire who was also a principal donor, along with T. Boone Pickens to the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth PAC. On October 10, 2008, a campaign finance watchdog group, Democracy 21, filed a complaint with the FEC about the group's alleged violations of election campaign law. This went nowhere, and in 2009, AIP aired a second national TV spot, colloquially called the Jesus ad, targeting the Obama stimulus package as unprecedented in its size and wastefulness. He directed the production of the spots. Then he was the general strategist for State Senator Ken Cuccinelli's successful bid for Attorney General of Virginia. He has a core GOP party operative whose responsibility has been do whatever is necessary to get GOP guys elected, which is largely, a lot of these guys, when you start studying their backgrounds, they're not ideologues. They're political animals. They get paid to get people elected. And they run on polling and oppo research, and they live and breathe the swamp. Absolute swamp creatures. There's utility in the swamp creatures because you need people who know how to navigate the swamp. But it also means that they are they become vectors for containment and co-oping. He helmed the 2012 senatorial campaign of Linda McMahon in Connecticut, losing to Congressman Chris Murphy. He was the consultant to black conservative Congressman Alan West of Florida, who was defeated for re-election in a heavily redistricted seat. He was the chief strategist for the 2013 gubernatorial campaign of longtime client Ken Cuccinelli in Virginia. The conservative attorney general, heavily outspent and behind in every public survey from July to November, battled to a surprisingly close finish against former Democratic Party Chair Terry McAuliffe. Now, this is interesting because remember, we talked about Terry McAuliffe on an episode last week where we were discussing Glenn Youngkin, who seems like he was basically handpicked to run against McAuliffe and keep him out. This is another interesting connection. Cuccinelli, presumably, was handpicked to try to run against McAuliffe. Was it, I saw speculation about this, that on one hand, it maybe LaCivita's job was to nerf his campaign and ensure the election of McAuliffe. Or the other side of it would just be that whoever the interests are behind LaCivita, the people paying LaCivita's bills, are in a now decades-long battle against the Clinton mafia. You have the Clinton mafia and then this GOP mafia. And McAuliffe being a proxy for the Clintons, well, they wanted to run someone against him to block him out. They lost. And then Glenn Youngkin was their new guy who won. Another little data point indicating that Youngkin, I'm feeling pretty strong that Youngkin is probably the VP pick. Maybe he's not. There's other ways that it can go still, obviously, but another interesting dynamic here. In January 2015, LaCivita was named a senior advisor to the exploratory presidential campaign of Senator Rand Paul. Paul suspended his campaign in February 2016 after finishing in 5th place out of 12 Republican candidates at the Iowa caucuses. See, the way that the problem with Rand Paul, I don't really think that he was I don't think it's proper to think of Rand Paul's campaign being nerfed, like intentionally, like, oh, we're going to keep him out, so we're going to appoint the guy to ruin him. I think this is attributing far too much competence and Machiavellianness to these types of influences. Rand Paul ran a campaign that could have been successful in 2008. There's institutional muscle memory for how to run these sorts of things and the types of the way to talk about politics and how to go after the left and the Democrats and everything. And Trump completely reimagined the game. I don't think that LaCivita is there to prevent Trump from being elected. I think he's there because he's a trusted, reliable consultant and with lots and lots of experience with this, and they anticipate Trump being elected. And so they're putting the trustworthy, reliable guy in there. And then, of course, he becomes a proxy for being a gatekeeper for the sorts of radical right-wing influences that the establishment GOP doesn't want present doesn't want representative for. Let's see here. So in April 2016, the Republican National Committee hired LaCivita as a senior organizer, or as a senior advisor for what was expected to be a fractious national convention in Cleveland. His longtime former Virginia client, Ken Cuccinelli, plotted a floor challenge to disrupt Donald Trump's path to the nomination. Working for RNC Chair Reince Priebus, LaCivita and others were instrumental in shutting down the Never Trump movement's floor challenge on the first day of the convention. According to Kyle Cheney of Politico, the RNC and Trump campaign whips went to work. With the lists of insurgent delegates in hand, dozens of aides worked the convention floor for about 15 minutes, collecting their own set of withdrawal signatures. In the end, 4 of the initial 11 states saw enough delegates abandon the roll call effort to scuttle it. That November and December, LaCivita served as the national GOP liaison to Republicans named to the Electoral College. Then, is there any more things here I wanted to highlight? General consultant for Ron Johnson's reelection bid, senior advisor to the Trump presidential campaign, chief strategist of MAGA Inc., and the chief operating officer of the RNC following its takeover by Trump. So that's LaCivita. Close this. Here's a video of Kevin Roberts. I don't know when exactly this was. This was this the I'm not sure when this was. Here's Project 2025 leader Kevin Roberts saying Donald Trump gets full credit for creating Project 2025 and will enact it if he wins.
We've been working with all of them on one project since soon after Joe Biden took the oath of office, before any conservative presidential candidates had even entered the race. As my friend and colleague Paul Dans before talked about briefly, our Project 2025 has developed a comprehensive policy agenda, but even more importantly, recruiting people, 20,000 people to go into the next administration, hopefully to help take back this country for you and for your audiences. We want no credit. We want the American people, if President Trump is elected again, President Trump and his administration, to take credit for that. But it will also be a great sign if all of this is successful, that in fact, as we know in our prayer time, but maybe not every time when we're watching the news, that the Lord is still smiling upon America. We've been working.
Nice rhetoric. Yeah, in the chat, Kate says, though I've heard this from Pedro and company. Oh, he says, she says, behind now. I've heard Susie Wiles was a Chinese lobbyist, but who knows to what extent. Though I've heard this from Pedro and co., and I tend to take him less seriously these days since he went overboard with DeSantis shilling. And Taylor Brown says, Pedro was so disappointing. Dude was so good, but he's become such sour grape since he was outed as a noticer. Yeah, I had to unfollow him a long time ago. He has become just the absolute definition of a shill. He's so whiny and just, it's like listening to a tranny talk. It's very off-putting. Even if I agreed with something he was saying, his entire demeanor is just completely just smarmy and just off-putting. He's really become kind of a proxy now for, it's really easy. If Pedro is talking about something, you got to take the opposite position of whatever he's saying. Because literally everything he says it's very obvious. He's either being paid to say it, or he's too, the alternative to that is he's just doing it for free, which is even worse. At least get paid to post coal. Don't do it for free. Okay, more Kevin Roberts here. So here's a thread from July 3. Kevin Roberts says, Americans in 2024 are in the process of carrying out a second American revolution to take back power from the elites and despotic bureaucrats, which is interestingly echoing a lot of Vivek Ramaswamy's rhetoric. These patriots are committed to peaceful revolution at the ballot box. Unfortunately, the left may not allow a peaceful transfer of power. As we saw in 2020, organized groups on the left have the capacity to riot violently, take over cities, target Supreme Court justices with violence and death threats, weaponize taxpayer-funded agencies to target their political opponents, just to name a few. As more and more Americans have rallied against corrupt elites in recent years, the groundswell of support has had unmistakable historical parallel to the decades before 1776. There's no doubt that we're living at the dawn of the Second American Revolution. The First American Revolution was not really instigated by American patriots. It was their response to the destructive and despotic changes which the British elites were seeking to impose on the colonies. Akin to our founding fathers, today we confront a far-off elite that is actively seeking to establish in the United States new modes and orders, quote, to achieve a Machiavellian overthrow of our constitutional system in favor of new institutions controlled by the Uniparty. In some ways, our situation is even more dire than during the First American Revolution. Like the First American Revolution, the second began when a corrupt ruling class sought to overthrow the existing institutions of American life. But whereas the British passed laws and imposed colonial officials, our elites have been more subtle. Over decades, they have substituted a growing network of institutions, public and private, that allow them to exert control without accountability, leeching away power from our constitutional order and installing it in the deep state, in woke corporations, massive foundations, and more. The good news is patriots across the country are coming together, organizing the groundwork of resistance and fighting back. We will save the institutions that we can, start new ones wherever needed, and unapologetically destroy those that are hostile to human flourishing. Aren't Leonard Leo, who's helped remake the Supreme Court, and Harlan Crow, who has pretty much adopted Justice Thomas and subtly provides him with lavish perks, elites? Some may consider them to be corrupt elites for changing at least one U.S. institution. You sweet summer child. Now, I've had to... there was a time when this sort of rhetoric would have gotten me all oorah, and I've had my perception of the American Revolution very thoroughly remade, where now the conservative hagiography of the American Revolution is kind of nauseating. At the same time, I recognize the power in it. And a sales pitch is a sales pitch. If you're trying to capitalize on, like, I don't think it's ever going to be generally accepted. The Yarvinian notion of the American Revolution, which I believe is the accurate read of it, is never going to be popularly accepted. It's always going to be a fringe position. It's just the nature of this type of story. When you're looking at the birth of the American Empire, it's always going to be framed in these hagiographic terms. So there is a rhetorical utility to talking in these ways. I think that it's cringe, or at least it's cringe to me. Maybe it's not cringe to you guys, but it's cringe to me. But I recognize that the vast majority of the audience to something like this does not see it as cringe. It's actually very compelling. It's a really useful way to root people in the present by showing them how things from the cycles from the past are being recapitulated. And so it's a very effective political, rhetorical device. Let's listen to this clip here. This is posted back in January. This is a conversation between Kevin Roberts. Dr. Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation has taken over 7,000 resumes from qualified America First applicants that are meant to replace positions in the administrative branch the day of Trump's inauguration. This is Kevin Roberts talking to the great Steve Bannon. Full screen. There we go.
People, we got to be ready with the 3,000 non-Senate confirmed. Walk me through your take on Davos. You just heard Jamie Dimon giving MAGA a big shout out. And give us a heads up of what your panel is going to be about tomorrow.
Yeah, Steve, two things happened today I never thought would happen. The first is that I'm at Davos, and secondly, Jamie Dimon sounds like he could be on your show. So, and the reason I'm here is to represent the millions of Americans who are ascendant. I mean, that's the word that you're using. That's the word I'll be using tomorrow. The very reason Jamie Dimon said that, the reason that I and maybe 3 other conservatives have been invited to the program is because these people are running scared. They see what's happened in Argentina. They see what's happened in the Netherlands, in Italy, in other countries, and they know very likely in the United States we're going to have a conservative administration, which leads me to the heart of your question. What we've done with Project 2025 is, as you've heard from Paul and Johnny and Spencer, just a slew of Trump administration alums, is prepare the next president, looks likely to.
So Paul would be Paul Dans, Spencer would be Spencer Chrétien, and Johnny would be Johnny McEntee.
Be President Trump, to go into office, and as soon as the oath of office and inaugural address are done, to start dismantling the administrative state. I'm happy to report, as of this week, Steve, that we have over 7,000 people who've submitted their resumes in this conservative LinkedIn. We need more than that in order to take this bull by the horns. But look, you know that we don't believe in hollow optimism and heritage. I know that you don't either. I'm here in Davos to obviously not preach to the choir, but to read these people of the Riot Act, that we are in the process of taking this country back, and we're also taking back self-governance for free people around the world. And I can't thank you and your staff enough for giving us that voice.
Dr. Roberts, just as you described tomorrow, the administrative state here, for most of the people, particularly in Europe and other countries, that's the way they set their governments up to run. That's why the American experience is so different. Can you just compare and contrast how the administrative state, how big it is, why we know that is something we've got to take on? I said that at CPAC in 2017, versus your audience tomorrow, brother, is about to be shocked. Because they think all the Trump followers breathe through their mouths. They're all white, Ku Klux Klan, white nationalists, knuckle draggers. They're not ready for a guy like you and what you represent at Heritage and all the great people, the 7,000, but more than that, the hundreds of thousands that support and millions that support your effort. The folks in Davos are going to be shocked tomorrow. Trust me. Walk me through the compare and contrast our experience and what we want to get back to kind of the state capitalism, and they love the administrative state in those countries.
They do, and I'll just say maybe they'll be a little shocked, but I am going to have my boots on, so I think they're probably going to identify me as one of them. Got to trigger these people when we can, right? And have a little fun. But to your excellent question, yeah, I mean, for most of these people, especially those who are here in Europe or live here in Europe, the administrative state is like the ultimate form of government, right? And so when they hear conservatives talking about this being a problem, getting in the way of not the corporatism that is the religion of these knuckleheads in Davos, but in the small business capitalism, free market beliefs that we've of course practiced in the United States, it's a shock to their system. It's like telling them that the earth is flat. And so as I walk them through this, I'm going to be focusing on 4 or 5 areas of policy that demonstrate that everything that's ever been said at the World Economic Forum is wrong, and that the next president of the United States has to take on these issues. Gender ideology. China is our #1 adversary. Our biggest issue at Heritage, closing the southern border, ending this lawlessness in not just the southern border, but in borders around the world. Ask the conservatives in the United Kingdom how that issue is going as small boat after small boat just drips away, it erodes away self-governance in that country. But we also want to talk about the foolishness, as John Kerry was once again parroting today, of so-called climate change, that the so-called medicine, the solutions for fixing climate change actually are worse and cost more human lives than any so-called climate modeling we've ever seen. I think you're right to sum up here, Steve. They're not ready for that truth serum, but I certainly would not have accepted this unexpected invitation without the intent of coming here and telling them the truth.
Well, Dr. Roberts, what you represent at Heritage is the continuation of the American Revolution from our framers, and that's what they're about to hear tomorrow. What time is it going to be, Davos time? Because we're going to live stream it. Grace and Mo, we're going to live stream it on our Getter and on our Rumble, and I'll probably be in for commentary. What time do you hit what time do you roll?
It's a 4:15 p.m. corporate globalist Davos time, and that's 10:15 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh, I think we'll pick it up live here then on the show. Dr. Roberts, honored to have you on here. What social media? How do people follow your journey into the heart of the beast in Davos?
Twitter's the best. Live tweeting at Kevin Roberts TX.
Okay, so the last thing that I'll share is powerful mutual Jim Sharp. There's a hullabaloo going on about this. Mystery Grove. I didn't see what Mystery Grove was talking about. He's been deleting a lot of his posts lately. But this person replied, Inter Caesar said, what's hilarious about the Project 2025 people is that they are unhireable and even a Trump admin. It's understandable to think it's a phishing net op, so bad and embarrassing. And Jim Sharp says, I view this as Trump and his team being very disciplined. It's obvious Dems had this Project 2025 smear lined up, probably for a post-Labor media blitz. They pulled it out early to try and scaremonger shaky Biden voters back into line after his train wreck debate. Trump is depriving them of oxygen. They're desperate for another Proud Boys stand by quote to pin on Trump and blow it up for 4 months. His team is on point. No layup this time for flailing campaign and a flailing media. Trump will be staffing from Project 2025. And I just replied to him and I said, all it takes is a brief survey of the names tightly involved with Project 2025 and their closeness to Trump and history with them to see that your read is obviously exactly correct. The other thing I'll add with this is, remember, as we've talked about the PayPal mafia phenomenon and what are the big issues that they've been harping on? All the different guys we've been listening to, the things they've been harping on are the immigration situation, closing the southern border, China, needing to take China seriously as a not necessarily a friendly power, and regulation. Specifically, regulation associated with that's preventing innovation. So regulation in crypto, in manufacturing, industrialization, AI, all these different things that are all being suffocated by DEI, ESG, climate change, all these different agendas. These are getting in the way of the tech bros who just want to grill. Their version of grill is build rockets, build like 50-story skyscrapers and launch them into the sky. But they just want to grill. Elon, if you're following Elon on Twitter, he is getting he was kind of hinting at immigration stuff in the past. Now he's just outright saying over and over again, the Democrats are doing this explicitly so they can steal the election. This is the reason why they're importing all of these people, is for voter fraud. He's saying this over and over and over again. And Elon, as I think a lot of people who view Elon cynically don't appreciate how much of a model he is for young men. Young men who've been deprived of aspirational male models. They see Elon in glowing terms. They want to be like Elon. They want to build gigantic companies that do awesome shit and then shit post on the internet and dunk on libs and make lots of babies with lots of women. When Elon is really harping on something like this, the force of his will extends to a lot of people. So this whole Project 2025 agenda has a ton of things in it that these tech bros are going to be very supportive of, that they're going to want to see. They're going to want to throw their weight behind it. Now, there's plenty of stuff in there that they're not going to want to see as well, which is why it's going to be watered down. Like every other mandate for leadership, it's not going to be implemented fully. It's going to be neutered. It's going to be watered down. It's going to be less than what it could be. This is very obviously the case. But there's absolutely nothing that prevents Trump from completely denouncing it, wanting nothing to do with it now in July of 2024, and in February of 2025, hiring a bunch of Project 2025 people. It wouldn't even have to be a conscious thing for him. Like his advisors are like, hey, you need to distance yourself from this. It's bad publicity. It's going to give them red meat. It gives all the libs red meat to harp on for the rest of the campaign cycle. Distance yourself from it, as in pragmatic campaign terms. Okay, fires off a post. The dude just needs to get back on Twitter. He just fires off a post. Then people take it to Twitter. Then people start talking about it. And then come 2025, as long as the most important roles are staffed by the correct people, so director of O&B, director of OPM, my guess is the chief of staff is probably going to be another contained person like Reince Priebus. But if you could get a chief of staff that was not paused, then you now have these are the positions these people are gunning for. They know they're all insiders. They've been on Capitol Hill forever. They know how everything works. So they know the positions that they need to get. If they can get a sufficient number of those, then you just bring the candidates. It's not like Trump's going to be sitting there going, okay, well, did this person come from Project 2025? Yep, nope, he's out. Not going to take him. This is silliness. This is just absolute foolishness from people who are desperate for black pills. They are actively at war against the idea of hoping in or believing in anything. And so they just demoralize. Some of them are paid. The worst ones aren't. I have more respect for someone who's being paid to black pill people and demoralize them than I do for someone who's just doing it for free because they're that shitty of a person. Taylor Brown says, your insight is prescient and assuring. Glad I tuned in today. Thanks, Matt Rush Limbaugh Erickson. I'll take it. Okay. So I think that was all that I had with Project 2025. So now, do me a favor. We got 51 watching on YouTube and 32 likes. Hit the like button. If you're listening on Twitter, hit the like button on I don't even know how this works. I don't know what you guys are seeing when you're listening, but do something to promote it in the algorithm. You guys know how this works. Help us out. Give us a little bump here for the ASTROLABE. Almost 2 hours in, and we're finally getting to our second to last story. This is going to go at least 2.5 hours. So before we get into the rural guy that you guys know about from Twitter, the guy who's making his rural road trip, I have one that I've had in the hopper here for almost a month, and this was the perfect time to bring it up because it ties in directly with all of this. So there was a guy who posted this. This was back in June. He says, Casey B. Head says, you could buy property and have a family, young blood. You could buy this move-in ready house on 2.6 acres in Cheshire County and then meet a nice girl at the TLM parish 10 minutes away. If it's really important, you will find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. So $140,000 for this 822 square foot, 2-bed, 1-bath. And so here, you got the map from Hinsdale to the nearest Shake Shack. That'll become relevant here in a minute. See you, Taylor. Have a good one, buddy. So Donald Ward tweets, the anatomy of a shitpost, or how my mutual trolled the entire dissident right and made me smile. Join the Discord and remember, we are winning. We will win. All will be well. Thank you, Hype Man. Everyone is now familiar with the most famous house in Hinsdale, New Hampshire. A modest 2 bedrooms, 1 bath on 2.5 acres for 140 grand. Move to the country, young blood. Find a nice girl. Outrage! It's a well-used trope and was good engagement fodder for the ongoing urban versus rural blood sport which occupies slow news days on right-wing Twitter. But this time there was a catch. Instead of the residence being some crack house on MLK Boulevard or asking someone to leave their family and move to a black mold-infested teardown in North Dakota, this was actually a very nice starter home. One similar to what your parents or grandparents started out in. A lovely bedroom community, 95% white, an easy commute to a dozen small to mid-sized cities. A 2-hour drive to Boston. No doubt there are small-town problems, but aren't there everywhere? How did the heckin' based clubhouse of right-wing Twitter howl? They even stopped talking about sundresses and TikTok girls for a couple hours. It's the right-wing version of living in the pod and eating bugs. There are no jobs. It's the sticks. You can't find any women. Jimmies were rustled. Excuses and cope. Demoralization. Worse, Hinsdale, New Hampshire is a 2-hour commute to the nearest Shake Shack. My mutual had chummed the waters, dropped the bait, and set the hook. Because no one had actually taken 10 seconds to look at a map. There are something like 150 colleges and universities within a 2-hour drive of Hinsdale. You're telling me you can't find one granola chick or tomboy or art hoe who wants to raise goats and kids on your acreage? Seriously? And if you can't find a woman in that geographical region, which is like shooting fish in a barrel, you're fucking a sissy. The job sector in the New England region is fine. Living in the country means you'll have to commute anywhere. It's a lifestyle choice for having acreage. And it affords one time to listen to military history podcasts. The property itself was a steal for the price, and a sale is already pending. Glancing at comparables, it's a safe bet the new owner will realize a 50% gain on their investment in 5 years if current market conditions hold. The accounts complaining about this property not being good enough have zero real estate savvy. So why were Zoomers so quick to jump on Casey? Demoralization? Yes. Poor reading comprehension? Obviously. Trusting the thought leaders whom they follow to make the right hot take? Heck. Here's the straight dope. Any young man who's worth a damn ought to be able to move to a Mayberry RFD like Hinsdale, New Hampshire and be running the place in 5 or 10 years. If they're worth a damn. If you can't, then you've got no business dreaming about being the next Octavian or Achilles. It's a hard knock world, but those are the facts. We talk about accessing the levers of political power. New Hampshire is a swing state, albeit light blue. President Trump came just under 3,000 votes of winning it in 2016. Being a big fish in a small pond guarantees success, and New Hampshire is as good a place to move your way up the political ladder as any. It's the same strategy the Democrats use to infiltrate red states like Idaho or Montana, by the way. Here's the white pill. There are hundreds and thousands of Hinsdales across the country waiting for a guy or a group of guys to become part of the community, work their way into power, and start consolidating their lodgement. And it is so easy. Half the time, communities are begging someone to be a mayor, city council, school board, etc., who is young and have their shit together and knows what they're doing. Our guys can then move on to win county commissioner races or state legislative seats by starting in Hinsdale. If they're smart, if they're savvy, if they're not contemptuous of their neighbors. You won't do it in New York City or San Francisco or Seattle. And this is what I love about Casey Head's shitpost. It exposes the bare ass of those who lack moral courage and highlights those who have guts. Can you imagine yourself as mayor of Hinsdale, New Hampshire, Anon, eating breakfast at the Bacon Me Crazy diner? What do you mean? I already ate breakfast. Yes, but can you imagine what you'd do if you ran an entire town? I don't understand. Just an absolutely legendary post. I will not tolerate any blackpilling about this. All the people who said this is the right-wing version of living in the pod and eating bugs, these are goonics. Do not listen to them. This is an entirely attainable, aspirational, beautiful example of realizing the American dream. You can realize the American dream in this context. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Is it sexy? No. But who's told you what is sexy? Whose values are you aping when you say this isn't sexy enough? Oh, you're telling men to aim their sights too low. Are you? Is this aiming your sights low? Or are you just reinforcing the urbane, liberal, Yankee notion that anything rural, anything that could be conveyed as hick-seed or is unsophisticated and undesirable and is something to be shunned and shamed? The reaction to this, the reaction to this guy's post that he made here It was a brilliant, brilliant post because it sussed out the Goonics. It drew out the guys who like to talk a big game about a Christian society and right-wing governments and getting our Caesar and gutting the administrative state and yada, 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 yada. But when you hit him in just the right way, that inner person comes roaring out. And you can see that inner person is just a bougie lib who's LARPing right-wing dissident on Twitter because it sells. Now this is a good segue into the next thread. But before I do that, there was another thread that I was thinking about that I just remembered that I forgot to pull up. I know that Josh Ham sent this to me. Shout out to Josh Ham. So before we get into the other thread, which then leads to another thread, first we need to read this thread. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, folks. So Tibetan Basket Weaver quote tweeted the thread that I'm going to read to you guys here in a little bit in preparation for reading the thread after that. And he said, I've seen posts over the past few days talking about go to rural America to get a job and find someone to teach you the ropes. And there are plenty of young women to choose from if you drive across the country. Here's a thread detailing my experience in North Dakota. Okay, well, where is the actual thread here? Twitter is not perfect yet. Here we go. He says, I bought into the fantasy of going to a rural state to provide value to a local community which was having labor issues because the only labor supply for farm work was meth heads in the area where my friend lives. See, he's got a picture of a tractor. He's got a picture of a tractor in a field. Unlike what the media and people like potential Trump VP Doug Burgum of North Dakota will tell you, people in rural states like North Dakota hate outsiders. This is especially true for the majority reading this. If you're a strong, capable young male who is looking to move to the middle of bumfuck nowhere to learn the ropes while helping a drunken farmer who sprays Monsanto on everything with an intellectually disabled son, you're wasting your time. If you're a young guy, stay the hell away from rural America. Even the boomers who are working like a dog to keep everything afloat will view you as not only social competition for attracting females, but also business competition. For starters, there aren't enough women to go around, so any young, mildly attractive guy will be viewed as competition by the rest of the men. All of your potential business dealings with locals will be looked down upon since you didn't grow up with the people you're around. Even if you've lived in a small rural community for 10 plus years like my friend has, you will still be viewed as an outsider because your high school social standing determines everything. Yes, much of rural America operates on a teenager-level social mentality when it comes to relationships, and if you don't grasp this, then you haven't spent any time in rural America. Unlike large cities with a constant influx of new people, ideas, and resources, in rural communities, there's a finite amount of resources that everyone competes for. When you're competing against people who've grown up together in a little clique since high school, you lose. The only way to make money in a rural community is to have a large money reserve to start with, and a bunch of friends so you don't have to worry about labor issues like people stealing equipment and meth heads arriving at your driveway at 3 a.m. All those stupid rural people with their fucking meth heads everywhere. Small farmers are the greediest people you'll ever work for, and they'll treat you no differently than their other laborers, which are all meth heads. The guy I was how many references to meth heads has he made in like 10 tweets? The guy I was working for had over $6 million in equipment and another $8 million in farmland, so his operation was not small by any means. Forgot to mention, he would come over to me to brag about his $45,000 checks for selling shit-quality cattle. His words, not mine. Yeah, the dude was loaded, but when it came to paying his employees, he was a poor farmer who couldn't make ends meet. Cry me a river, boo-hoo. After successfully completing my first task with a $60,000 plus tractor. Wow, the tractor was $60,000 plus? Man! Jesus fucking Christ. In the middle of a field miles away from any oversight, I was bitched at for taking too long to get the field done. It was my first day. Plus, this was the first time I'd driven a tractor of this size before. After making the point that others had damaged his equipment and that I respected him as a person and his equipment enough to drive a bit slower, I was met with the hostile statement of, "You took too long and cost me too much money and lost time." He then told me to stay out until 1 a.m. in a thunderstorm to get another field done. reasoning, there aren't enough capable people to get everything done during the daylight hours. Like, geez, I wonder why. Maybe it's because no one wants to work for you. I'm glad you guys in the chat are picking up on this. Hopefully the dramatic reading is helping. But I saw a lot of people who were touting, oh, great thread, oh, well, good, well stated, guy. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Seething manlet detected, says Pascal. This thread gave me AIDS. Yes. The lesson in all of this is that rural America is dying, and the boomers do not want to teach the next generation the ropes. Any capable young male who's interested in moving to rural America to ease the workload off the boomers is wasting his time. Rural America is dying because the boomers have an immature mindset of viewing young men as competition for limited resources that they all own. They have more respect for low IQ foreigners and crackheads because they don't view them as a potential competitor. Now it's so good. Young finance bros like myself will point out business flaws to help the local farmer while maximizing the potential of their operations because we actually give a shit. They view any outside perspective as something that could potentially compete with their operations. The insecurity of these people are so high that they would rather see their operations stagnate and die instead of hearing out people that want what's best for their business. They want to pretend to be smarter than everyone else. This is why large corporations like Tyson are taking over while small farmers are failing. Why would a competent young white male help a boomer who will only see this person as competition if he succeeds? Anyway, sorry for so many posts. I don't have a blue check mark because I rarely tweet. Just thought I'd give y'all my take on this situation since I have firsthand experience with it. This experience does not represent all of rural America. Some of my friends come from farms in Idaho and their experience is completely different. Don't take my one experience and say it represents all of rural America. Rural America is still better than global homo bullshit. What the fuck, bro? Like, you just spent this whole time making these grand sweeping statements about how all of rural America is just like this, and if you go in there, there's just a little high school-minded clique. There are a bunch of retarded, backwards, slow people that are just dedicated to their own destruction. They're immoral and arrogant and stupid and gay. Hey, I had some friends that went to another rural America place. It was actually better there. So this isn't like everything. And really, at the end of the day, rural America is better than global homo bullshit. This thread was written by a spiritual woman. I don't have a blue check mark because I rarely tweet. Just thought I'd give my take on the situation since I have firsthand experience with it. Lots of comments about the post related to offering business advice as an outsider. 100%, someone should never come in to try to take over. The only biz advice I offered was registering his unregistered/uninsured truck he drives to town so he doesn't get sued for everything he owns. Dude, you went to North Dakota and got yourself hired by a farmer, presuming, oh, a farmer's some backwards retard, and he'll be so happy to have some guy with a college degree come in and tell him how to run his company. And you tried to fucking longhouse him. You should register and insure your truck when you drive to town. You should register your farm truck. You should comply with the bureaucracy. Yeah, no wonder the dude kicked you out on your ass. These guys are LARPers. They have these like romantic ideas of what rural America and it's just this romantic, wonderful place, and it's going to meet all my preconceived notions, and I could just keep being me, and I could just take urban America and take it into rural America, and then they're just going to welcome me as liberators. Oh, thank goodness, finance bro. We've been waiting for one of you to show up and help us. Please tell me how you graduated in June. Please tell me how to remake my business, because you've got a business degree after all. You're so wise, finance bro. Thank you for gracing me with your presence. Will you please drive my tractor around for me? And he's like, he takes way too long to do the job. And the guy's like, what the fuck? Like, no, I'm driving slow so I don't damage your machine. Get the fuck out of here. Give me a farm boy that knows how to run this shit. I actually have respect for you, unlike the other people. If you any of you who have actually existed for any amount of time in rural America or worked on a farm, like you know exactly, you can play this like a movie in your head. Exactly what this guy looked like coming up. presenting himself. The farmer's like, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. Like, here, go drive the tractor. Go till the field. You know, oh, look at me. I'm driving a tractor now. Oh, man, look at me to take a photo. Oh, gotta get it on the gram. Oh, I'm taking pictures of my field that I'm plowing. I'm listening to my military history podcast. You took way too fucking long. What's wrong? Oh, I was driving nice and slow so I don't damage your machinery. All right, bro. You got to go out. Go do this other field. But it's after hours. Do you pay for overtime? I have rights, you know. It's raining. I can't go out and till a field in the rain. What are you, uncivilized? I have to stay out until 1 a.m. I came to work on a farm. I didn't come to be a farmhand. This guy needs to be Gomer piled and tossed in a locker. And it is baffling to me how many guys I ostensibly respect, a lot of their takes, whose takes on this were abysmal. They're like, oh yeah, this is a great thread, man. Thanks for sharing your experience. Someone said it's like babysitting once and telling parents how to raise their kids. No one cares if you don't have skin in the game. That's a perfect analogy. Okay, so now the thread that his thread was premised on, which we have to read so we could share with you the next thread. So Hickman, Shagbark Hick. He said, many do not realize that there are many viable businesses in rural America owned by an aging man who has no obvious successor. The guy probably wants to retire. The locals need the service he provides, but the business would be hard to sell because it's not managed according to conventional principles, doesn't generate UMC level income, and is in a place most people don't want to live. One day, the guy just dies, and suddenly locals have to drive 60 minutes to Lowe's to get a new wrench instead of 10 minutes. Or their favorite old bar closes and they start drinking in Tim's garage instead, wishing the old bar would open again. They're bummed and a viable business is lost. Young guys who show any serious interest and commitment to the town could, with a little charisma and elbow grease, get some, notice, a little charisma, get some really sweetheart deals on takeovers, buyouts, etc. when the big chief wants to finally retire. Often just showing up and saying, I love this town and I'd like to work here just to learn how the business is run is enough to put a twinkle in the old owner's eye. The second step is actually following through and staying. Once you prove you're in for the long haul, things can move quickly. What this little fag didn't realize is that you can't just show up waving your degree in the guy's face and being like, oh, I did an internship at Deloitte, and have him just, oh, let me give that whole company to you. No, you got to go fucking prove yourself. Yes, they're insular. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want the high trust society? Yeah, the high trust society is insular and suspicious of outsiders. You have to go demonstrate that you're not just an outsider coming out here to cynically try to take over his company. This is like an age-old trope of the city boy who shows up and thinks he's gonna tell the whole town how to do things. You can do that, but it requires a little charisma and actually valuing the people and valuing the town, and not just trying to like get your little plot of land that you can import San Francisco to. You're no different than the libs that they hate and you claim to hate. You don't actually hate those libs. You just hate that you don't have status within them and you want to go create it in your own little area. This might be the most straightforward path to gaining a lot of influence in a rural town quickly, as those running these businesses tend to know everyone. As long as the new guy changes nothing, he'll be respected and be on the fast track to building a lasting local legacy. That's the thing. You don't come in and take the little family business, take the operation that's there, and transform it into something else. You come and take it over as it is, because that's what these towns want. That's what the people who live there want. They want stability, consistency. They want to maintain their way of life. There's an opportunity for you to come in and establish yourself as someone of value, but you're going to have to put in the time. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're not going to get all of the urbane luxuries. You're going to have to swallow your pride, exercise some humility, and submit yourself to someone who may not naturally earn your respect. You have to decide that you're going to go respect him and you're going to learn the way he runs his business because that's how everyone around wants the business to be run. And maybe once you've taken it over, you can hear some complaints from the customers. Hey, I wish we had this thing. Okay, you could change up things here and there to suit the customers. But you're not going in there and colonizing their little company because then you're not saving it. This is the exact reason this guy won't just give up control. This is the reason why he dies sweeping his diner floor. Because the people who come in and try to take it over are the city slickers with dollar signs in their eyes who clearly aren't doing it because they actually love the town and believe in the culture and want that community and want to sustain it. They just want to colonize it with urban America. The town hardware general store. This is America. This is Americana right here. And it's going to die if the only people who are going out and trying to save it are the twinky little manlets like the guy from the other thread. Okay. So now, wait a second here. Which one? Oh, this is actually the same guy. I think I must have closed my the thread thinking. So the same guy, Hickman, has the other thread that really kicked things off. Sorry, I've got another thread in here. So he says, here's my advice to single American men who feel hopeless about ever finding a good woman to marry. Take a month or two between jobs and drive across the USA. Stop at every gas station and truck stop and eat every meal at diners during non-rush hours. Avoid cities. Stop primarily in poor rural areas out in the middle of nowhere. Every time you see a pretty cashier or waitress with a good vibe, politely ask her out. Tell her you're out seeing the country and looking for a place to settle and a good woman to marry. Repeat until you've found someone to go steady with. This worked for at least one young awkward guy I knew at a Catholic church in Louisiana. Met his wife at Love's on I-80 in Iowa. She converted, moved to Louisiana with him, and they go back to Iowa together every Christmas, fueling up at the truck stop where they met. She was giddy to find him, as most of the men in her town were either already married or total losers. They were both in their early 30s when they met. I had planned on doing this when I got out of the military, but Providence had it that I'd never have to try it out. I'd be engaged to Tuah just before my discharge. But I say to any young man having trouble finding a woman, it's absolutely worth a try. At worst, you see the country and go on a few bad dates. At best, you find the love of your life. So, some examples of what he's talking about. Now, this kicked off a shitstorm, exactly like the Anatomy of a Shitpost one that I read. It kicked off a shitstorm of the exact same type of response. Oh, this is just the right-wing version of live in the pod and eat the bugs. Our boys deserve better than that. Our boys deserve better than some small-town country girl. Stupid rural hicks. Our boys should be able to find someone in the middle of their big cities that they live in and hate everyone around them. They should be able to find someone there who's elegant and educated and wealthy, and they're fucking goonics. So, one guy, to his credit, accepted the challenge. He did so cynically, basically to prove him wrong, but he accepted the challenge. That is the next thread. But before that thread, I'm going to share this satire of it from Marmot Respecter, a very good poster. He says, a lot of young whippersnappers complain that they can't find marriageable women, but they aren't willing to stow away in the bilge of a transatlantic container ship. Most of the major shipping lines have a woman's deckhand cadet program, meaning there's probably one 20-year-old traditional hardworking woman on most vessels. These girls are from small towns, low maintenance, not college educated, trying not to get gang raped by the Bengali crew. When she sees you climb out of 35,000 gallons of oily seawater, she will know you're a man of action who'll do whatever it takes to find a wife. The dating market isn't bad, you just aren't creative enough. That one's good. That one's good. Okay, let me see some of the comments you guys are posting here. Procrusty's a Clown says, as always, synthesis of both sides. A lot of these businesses are dying and need major changes. Some don't, some do. John Delano says, all of these negatives about this property are real and a good thing for those who will take action on it. The negatives keep out the competition. Find things where competition is frightened away. Absolutely. Cooper says, my small town has been almost 100% taken over by box stores. Very few small family businesses since. Procrusty says, this one's his weakest. I've been closely following the guy who decided to do it for himself. Looks like he found a good girl in a bougie coffee shop. Okay, so he's giving away the plot here. So, Bumbadum on Twitter, who I saw him tweeting about this, so I turned notifications on for his tweet so I could see what's happening as it's happening. He says, the last thread I just read, he said, last week this tweet started some retarded discourse, which included Matt Walsh, Cernovich, and others. So I, as a 23-year-old young male, have taken the rest of the weekend and half of next week off to do exactly this. So he's starting from LA, and he's coming all the way up through Vegas, through Southern Nevada, up into Utah, out across through Colorado, and all the way back around through. I've done this drive multiple times. Some of the most beautiful country in the world. This is my country out here, man. Like Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Northern Arizona. Oh, I miss it. So he says, you old boomers don't understand how expensive this will be, so I'm going to do this as cheaply as possible. Only expenses will be gas, food, and recreational activities. I will avoid paying for housing as much as possible, including car camping. I mean, this just sounds fun. It's 2 a.m. We are now leaving for Denver, Colorado. So his check engine light comes on. Fuck, dude, really? First stop, $46.24 for gas, $5.71 for a pack of Zins. He's a man of culture. I have yet to encounter any of these gas station trad waifus. Will report at the diner in St. George. My car appears to have BPD. The check engine light is gone. Wagon Wheel Diner in St. George. Once again, no trad waifus. Tags the guy. What gives? $25.44 for egg white omelet and a side of biscuits and gravy, including tip. If you're going through St. George or near Zion, worth a stop. No A10 tradwives, though. Disappointing. Second gas stop in Richfield, Utah. $32.90 for gas. As you can see, a clear candidate for good-spirited young white men. The boomers must be onto something. Won't be able to gas station post for some time as this portion of 70 is barren. However, the beauty of Utah, even just its scenic view spots, is impossible to exaggerate. I always love to stop at the San Rafael Reef viewing area. Look at that. If you haven't driven around the southwestern United States, you are missing out. It is so stunning. Especially once you know what you're looking at. Like when you realize you're seeing an old riverbed. That's what this is here. This was a flow of water that crested the top of the hills up here. And this is like a riverbed that just funneled the water straight down through here. This water was moving. Massive flood. I have a long way till I hit Grand Junction, so in the meantime, I'm going to clarify the intention of this thread for the bona fide morons who can't read. This trip is not actually about finding a trad wife and whisking her away from her wagey job at a truck stop. Shocking! This is actually about BTFOing this notion that attractive women are hidden across rural America in truck stops and diners. Just like how rural America is brain drained by unis in big cities, the same happens with beautiful people. Deleted this post. I don't know what that was. He says, I'll demonstrate this dynamic tomorrow after I arrive in Denver. Attractive women are at the yuppie places in cities, bougie coffee shops, boutique areas, hiking trails, bars, etc. So, this is the autism speaking. The guy says, drive across rural America, go look for these little hole-in-the-wall places, go to the truck stops, go to the diners, go look in there for the girls who are just wages, that are just working. And this guy goes, oh, well, I'm going to look and see if they are literally in truck stops or diners. And there's no one in truck stops or diners. That's not where they are, you stupid boomer. You don't know how the world works. The simple analysis is this. Hot people are in cities. Beautiful mids are in suburbs. Uglies are everywhere else. This is a fact. This is how rootless cosmopolitanism works. Wow, relatively attractive people going to get a coffee. Chatted up the lady selling hot sauce. Nothing too aggressive. She moved from Connecticut 9 years ago to Denver area. Said she threw a dart at a map and moved where it landed. Gonna go get breakfast now. I have to make a correction. Yuppie coffee shops are filled with old people as the young people are still hungover from last night. Cool little shop, though. Ah, nuance for me, but not for thee. This isn't female posting, but I finally had a moment to do some writing. This place is segmented into 3 distinct groups of people. Overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly rich, but in very different stages of life. He's sitting here writing. Group 1, college students, wealthy or poor, they all dress poorly, like they were picked off the streets of LA. Not many accessories, no pets, sore thumbs in the crowd, and immediately identifiable. Different US and international accents with heads on a swivel. Group 2, millennials/working professionals, all late 20s to 40s. Very rich, insulated from the world. Many of them have kids or kids on the way, typical granola types wearing clothes for hiking when walking around town. They look poor, but upon a second glance, they aren't. Most of the men have 10 to 15K watches on, purebred dogs, low-key type designer fashion. If you weren't paying attention, you would think they're bums from the way they carry and groom themselves, but this is not the case. All millionaires at a minimum. They live in smaller townhomes. Group 3, boomers. They've been here for 40 years. They own the actual lots and homes across the city. Beautiful houses, and they wear their wealth, obviously. Generally dressed well, artsy types. They probably have secret rituals with abortion fetuses. Oy vey, shut it down. End U.S. funding for Israeli aggression. Okay, so sorry for the this is 2 days into it now. Okay, so sorry for the lack of posting. For those who have been following carefully, I've said that I would be occupied for the bulk of this day. Many of my good friends have children on the way, which is the primary reason for me coming to the Denver area. I am drunk, which is when I schizo post hardest, so trying to keep it calm. Love my friends very much, so happy they're all grown up. Took a break from searching around for beautiful women to chat up and get numbers from. Tomorrow, I will go to bars in the area and report. My schedule after tomorrow is very loose, so I think I want to commit to an idea now. Monday, go to the Woodard Park in Copper and film some of it with my camera, meet some people and hit some tricks. Then head down to Pagoda Springs, hang out there and camp for the night. Then spend the morning or midday in Durango. Durango is one of my favorite places in the world. It's such a cool little town in southwest Colorado. It's just absolutely gorgeous. There's a river that runs through the town that I went on a wilderness survival experience. And one of the things we practiced was swiftwater rescue in that river. So last time we did a road trip, Amy and Eastwood and I went and stopped at that river, and I just walked along it. And it's crazy how much it's built up in the almost 20 years since I was there. But that's it. It's such a refreshing place to live. The fresh air, the mountains, the trees, the river. All the people walking around with their dogs. Everyone's nice. Everyone's friendly. They all smile and acknowledge you as you walk by them. Durango is a beautiful place. After some time there, go to Capitol Reef, as it's one of the last Utah national parks I haven't been to. Do at least a 2-mile hike there, then head back to LA, likely stopping in Vegas to see some other friends. I will add, while I lie here in the dark of my friend's vacant apartment, seeing these guys who are my very good friends and mentors in many ways through college have kids or have kids on the way gives me the worst baby fever. I wish I was ready right now to start a family. Huh. Interesting that all of these effects are happening as he's undertaking this mission to disprove its thesis. Also, some of the retards quote tweeting this thread think I'm some Cali transplant staying in Colorado. The trip is actually round trip. I'll be taking the same route through Vegas back to LA. I do have a job and can't be a perpetual bum. Mission success! She has A10 eyes, met her at a boutique coffee shop this morning, forgot to post. She's got a screenshot here of a chick in a cowboy hat on her Snapchat, I think is what this is. I don't know what the kids are using these days. It surprises me how popular Snapchat is. Low-key in love, she works on a ranch and is from Scotland. Why does she have to live 1,000 miles away from me, bros? Getting dinner with friends tonight, but we'll see what I can work out with her before I have to leave. I still have 2 to 3 more days of travel, so I'll keep the thread going, but I feel satisfied in BTFOing the boomer. Okay, buddy. Yeah, you feel satisfied in that. You totally proved him wrong. She isn't free till tomorrow evening, so either I stay an extra day here and go out with her and miss out on half the traveling, or I leave the A10 Scottish beauty. No! Taking her out for dinner and drinks tomorrow. Staying 1 more day, extending the trip. Calling boss man Boomer and begging for another day off. Kind of gives you an idea of why he might have so much hostility toward the boomers, huh? So along with our planned date tomorrow, she's coming over for drinks right now. I'm posting on this thread to make it clear to myself. I'm not doing this to randomly lay pipe on women around the country. Good for you, kid. We've been talking all day. Really like this one. So I just now dropped her off at her place. Still getting dinner with her, though. All of this sucks. Both really sad that I don't live nearby. And of course, I spent too much time with her and now won't be able to go snowboarding. Dinner was awesome, but it's over, bros. Could have been right person, but definitely wrong time. Tomorrow I'm leaving. The road trip will resume back to LA. On a side note, Haven't been posting costs of things, mainly because everything has been free. Food, booze, and lodging have all been provided while I've been here. Only thing I spent money on was tonight's date. After taxes and tip, it was $86 for dinner and 3 drinks each. Back on the road, fags. Time to find another. Now, I gotta admit, when I saw the hat, I want to be nice to the guy, but I don't associate this hat with positive things. Whoops. Bring my windows back. Okay. So this was funny last night while he was on the date. He says, not going to lie, the best thing about her is she doesn't know how to shut the fuck up. It's so cute hearing her just endlessly randomly talk about nothing on repeat like it matters. Yes, yes, please tell me again about that thing I wasn't listening last time. And then this guy says, this is true scientific peer review. Your hypothesis is shit, and I'll prove it. Actually, never mind, you guys were right. I agree with this guy, Old McBot Farm. He says, no, retard, I found this woman at a boutique coffee shop in a yuppie town not far from local ranches. The boomer thesis was gas stations and diners. You gotta dial down the autism, bro. The boomer thesis was not literally only in gas stations and diners will you find the woman you're looking for. The thesis was go drive around America, go off the beaten path, get into the rural communities, and you'll find one. You'll find beautiful women who are out there. This chick works on a ranch. Some Scottish immigrant who works on a ranch and is in some little rural town. And he met her at a coffee shop. Oh, okay. So it wasn't diners and truck stops. It was a coffee shop instead. This is like like he set out because he was like, I'm going to prove him wrong and I'm not going to find anyone and then I'm just going to be able to prove it. And then he found someone, so he had to retcon it in some way. That no, you said this really hyper-specific thing, and I branched out and did something totally different. I didn't go to a diner. I went to a coffee shop. All right, bro. And meanwhile, you've had the other premise was, people were shitting on the original thread. They were like, oh, you know how expensive it is, the cost of gas. This isn't something some guy could just go do. And here he disproves that premise as well because he's like, yeah, everything is free. Everyone's just been giving me shit. It turns out that having friends across the country and traveling to see them maybe it doesn't cost as much as you think. You're sitting here holed up in this hellacious place that you hate, and you're going back there. You found exactly the chick that you're looking for, despite thinking you weren't going to. And then you're leaving her behind and going back to the place you work for. You can't, relocate to Colorado. You can't take, I don't know, if the job is so good, then maybe take 3 to 6 months to save up the money and road trip your way out to Colorado and sleep in a friend's vacant apartment until you get your feet, somehow this whole thread is both a massive white pill and a massive black pill for me. He gets baby fever. That's a great thing. It seems like the most Zoomer thing ever to set out on this goal to disprove the boomer. Oh, you stupid boomer. You don't know what you're talking about. You're completely detached from reality. And then stumble upon everything that you're looking for and then have to retcon it in your mind is actually, no, it was different. If anything, the fucking boomer got you to go out and do something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. No, it didn't play out exactly as he said, so he's wrong. Cooper says, young single dude with nothing going on shouldn't be trapped in fucking LA. Hell of his own making. Yes. My family, my wife and I had to extract ourselves from LA with our son, which was vastly more complicated and expensive and difficult than it would be as a young single guy. I moved from Seattle to Missouri with a job where we were literally living in a hotel. Me and 5 other guys were living in a hotel room for several weeks, getting a company off the ground, getting it started. Turned into an absolute catastrophe. It was a terrible experience. Never should have gone onto it in the first place. But if you're 23 and you can't extract yourself from LA, you only have yourself to blame for that. All right. 2 hours and 35 minutes, still going strong. We got one more. Now we have to do it. We have to talk about the Tuah girl. So, the Clown World tweeted, they made a documentary on the Tuah girl. It was funny. I was watching this the other day, and I told Cooper about it, and he was like, "Man, I wanted to hate her, but this is making it a lot harder to hate her." So we'll play this, and then I'm going to take issue. I really like Revenant's post typically, but I'm going to take issue with some of the stuff he's saying. So let's watch this.
I'm Haley, and I'm from Belfast.
Hold on. Pull up the volume.
I'm Haley, and I'm from Belfast, Tennessee. It's a little small area near Lewisburg. It's really been a blessing.
I don't know what to feel. It's crazy. I never thought anything like this would ever happen. It's too much to comprehend.
Yeah, I really had no idea that one night in Broadway, having fun with your friends and everything else would change your whole life around.
I think the whole community did that with the Daily Mail, you know, just you know, somebody they didn't know come in asking questions about somebody we all care about. So everybody kind of went into protection.
But I just want her to stay with me as long as I'm here.
I am not moving to Los Angeles or New York. I'm staying here with Granny forever.
There was another video that she posted. She's obviously got a publicist team and everything now. She posted a video saying she is not creating an OnlyFans. Stop asking. And there's all people that are selling all the Tuah merch and everything. She's like, it's not me. If you want to support me, don't buy that stuff. She's going to be coming out with her own thing. And you know, let me hold my comments on it for just a minute. I just want to respond to the stuff on the thread here, and then I can stop all the screen sharing. It says, "You're rural trad wife, sir." And guy says, "Well, at least she's not fat." And he said, "This is literally all it takes now for a woman to be standout attractive," and I'm not kidding. When the journalists try that in a small town. So this guy, I don't know if someone said that the audio was low. I couldn't get it up any higher. So sorry if you couldn't hear it. Hopefully you could read everything was captioned. She said that someone from the Daily Mail came out. They found her hometown. As soon as she blows up and she's this big thing, all the journalists have to kick into gear. So they figure out who she is, where she's from. They go to her town. They start pestering everyone, asking them about her. And town of 788 people in southern Tennessee, they're like, yeah, fuck you guys. We're gonna look out for our girl. We're closing ranks around her until we figure out what's going on. So everyone kind of went into protection mode. He says, this guy says, I don't know, dude. These are just working class Southerners. They're just a particular kind of normie and not even the worst kind. Far from the worst, in fact. And he says, based on what we've seen of her, your average suburban white girl from the North is probably less degenerate, especially if we're talking about Zoomers with lower promiscuity than millennials. He says, is a single actual person saying this skank is a trad wife, though? He says, no, the joke is that people romanticize rural America to the point that we have goofballs saying, just go find a wife at a truck stop in the middle of nowhere. And then you got the duality of, man, I can fix her versus she's a lost cause. You guys hate white Americans just as much as Jews do. Shout out to CRX. So I like Revenant. I like a lot of what he's posted. This is just absolutely the wrong. This is just, again, emblematic of this same perspective. First of all, if you're a dude looking for a woman and you see, oh, she's making sex jokes. Oh, she's making sex jokes. She's degenerate. Dude, she's like a 20-year-old girl. She's just a 20-year-old girl from the small country town. She goes up to Nashville. She's walking around out on a night with the friends and probably kind of drunk. She's just a very ordinary, normal person. Some guy sticks a mic in front of her and starts asking her questions. She's joking around, laughing, having fun with friends, and she makes a joke, not knowing she's being like live streamed or that it's going to turn into like, imagine you're just out goofing off with your friends and someone sticks a mic in front of you and you make some wisecrack. And next thing you know, you're the most popular person in the world. Everyone's talking about you. You are the meme. This is now the thing that you're going to be identified with for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. You're going to have paparazzi chasing you everywhere. Everyone wants to drill into every last little detail of your life. Everyone wants to treat her like she's the bad guy here. And she's just some ordinary chick. She is like the definition of the wife jack. She's just the wife jack out being a girl, doing girl stuff, hanging out with her friends, makes a funny sex joke. And then you've got insufferable chuds on the internet who are like, oh, she's degenerate. She's degenerate. She's a world degenerate. You white boys, you deserve better than that. You can't let her get her stink on you. Oh, watch out. The woman is going to subvert you. You've got the white boy fragility that if you have women are subversive little creatures that they'll get around you and they'll tear you down and destroy you. You have to be on your guard against them, and you can only accept a nun. This is gay. This is how gay men talk about women. If you want a trad wife, you're not going to go find a trad wife. You make a trad wife. Through your sheer integrity and force of character. This is the role of a man to a woman. The man is the vessel that provides the shape for the woman, and she will fit that shape. So if you look at a woman like this and you're like, oh yeah, fuck her. She made a sex joke to a black guy. I can't believe she actually talked to a black guy and then she made a sex joke about making blowjobs. Cooper says these guys don't like girls being sexy because they're all crypto faggots. Yes. That's this. See, and I like Revenant, and I don't necessarily want to attribute that to him, but that's the character he's embodying. This is a number one. I think this chick she's a victim of the entire she's a victim of the internet. She's capitalizing on it, and good for her. She basically has like two options. One is go on the lam and go into hiding somewhere, and you're still probably going to get hunted down. The other is lean into it. Capitalize on it. She's never going to want for anything again. She's going to be able to support her family for the rest of their lives. And she's going to pay this price. It's not going to be free. It's not going to be all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. It's going to be very hard for her not to get dragged into the grinder. And that's not because, oh, she's degenerate. It's because she's a young chick who doesn't know what she's doing. She needs a man in her life who recognizes all of this and is going to protect her from the worst aspects of it. She's not an icon to be shunned and spit on and used as a cautionary tale. Oh, you shouldn't be out on the street walking around with your friends and making jokes to people. Talk about like stuffy moral majority prude mentality. So I am staking out my territory here that the actual story of what happened with the Tuah girl is not, number one, not indicative of her corruption or degeneracy or whatever. And there's actually something very wholesome about it. There's something very wholesome that can be drawn from it. It ties in very much to the 2-Bit Podcast Neotrads. Now we're getting, there's demand for the small town country girl, 788 inhabitants. You got grandpa out mowing the lawn, and she's going to stick to her grandparents. She's going to take care of them for the rest of their lives. She's not going anywhere. It's all very wholesome. As wholesome as you could get out of something as crass and debased and actually degenerate as the entire internet commentariat scene is. with respect to it. Cooper says blowjobs are wholesome. I wonder if Josiah is still listening. The conversations that we have in the Discord voice chat. Anyways, hopefully this is giving you guys a new perspective on her. I wish her the best. I sympathize. I don't think this is going to be. I don't sympathize. I empathize. I don't think it's going to be good for her. It's going to be very hard for it not to be bad. She's saying a lot of the right stuff right now, which is good. But if your takeaway from this is, see, this is an example of the type of girl, she's for the streets. Nah, boys, don't go looking for don't go looking for the girls in the rural areas that are living with their grandparents and helping take care of them. Don't get that small town American girl. They're trash. Ugh, yucky rural people. Ugh. They don't read Shakespeare. They don't listen to military history podcasts. They're not as enlightened and cultured and civilized as we are. Fuck these guys. They're not friends. Anybody who's talking that way, whether it's the people who are saying go just drive across the country and go meet some people, and you'll be surprised at who you stumble across. The people who are counter signaling them, those aren't friends. When someone says, look, here's a house, just like the house, you talk, oh, my grandparents bought this cheap house, so this little starter home, and they were able to pay for it really quick and then build their way up out of it and embed themselves in the local communities. No, I just can't do that anymore. And a guy's like, hey, here's a place where you could do it. No, there's this thing wrong with it and that, and it won't work this way, and I deserve so much better than that, and you're just trying to corrupt me. Those are not friends. This is goonicry. It's to the point now where every single time I see any sort of thread that's advocating, going out into rural America and working for a farmer or taking over a local business and running it for the sake of the people or going and getting yourself elected to the city council of some small town or any of those things. Anybody who's advocating for that, regardless of the specifics that they put in it, it is an uncompromisingly good thing. And anybody who countersignals it whatsoever is not a friend. If you have an issue with the details around the edges, oh, well, it's boutique coffee shops, it's not diners. If you're going to spurg about little details like that, you don't countersignal it. You reinforce it and say, hey, yes, do this, and here's some other places you could look. This is how we fight back against the blackpilling and the cynicism and the nihilism. We focus on the wholesome things. We draw out the wholesome things. We emphasize them. We fan those flames and build them into a roaring bonfire. Anyways, thanks for showing up, guys. Another super long episode. Like I said at the beginning, we've got some really fun plans coming down the pike here. It may take a little while for us to get everything built out on the back end, but I think you guys are really going to like what we're going to start building for you. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can turn the notification bell on. It's probably not going to do anything. Join the Kingpill Discord. If you'd like to support the show, then that's the best way to do it. We'll have some other stuff for you guys here in the near future, different ways you can support the show, but we appreciate you showing up and listening. Hit the like button. You guys have done great. We got 56 right now and 45 likes. So I appreciate you guys. Duffhead says, stop being poor and join the Discord. That is our mantra. Stop being poor. Join the Discord. We'll catch you.